All right. What time is it? Doggone it, we're late. 6:32. Okay. 6:32. We're going to kick this thing off. As some of you can see, we're wearing a lot of pink. It's breast cancer awareness, and this council is making it a priority that we know what this month is, and I'm going to close the meeting in honor of that, and I know we all probably have people in our lives who's impacted by it, so it's important that we reach out to them and we remember the importance of this month. So for the council, we're all wearing pink little ribbons. We got the fire guys behind us wearing pink as well. So thank you guys for the support. We appreciate it. It's so important. To start this meeting off, we start off the same every council meeting. Will you join me as we stand and honor the men and women who've given the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty for a moment of silence, please? Thank you. With that, as most of you know, it's a busy world right now. There's a lot going on. My good friend Bill is here, and he was just in Israel a few months ago, and I've asked him to lead us in prayer tonight. So, Mr. Van Vliet, will you please lead us in prayer tonight?
My pleasure. Dear God, we gather this evening as your faithful servants in Canyon Lake. We confess that at times we feel overwhelmed by the storm, but tonight we lift our eyes to you, the maker of heaven and earth, and we ask for a miracle. Let your peace fill Israel and Gaza. Lord, we know your heart breaks for those killed and those left behind, for the orphan child, the injured elderly, those abducted, and families desperate for safety. We pray for those suffering. We ask that you provide peace in this crisis and protection and comfort for all those who have been impacted. Let violence cease in the region. Let no more bloodshed be shared. We also pray that you give our city leaders and staff wisdom so that they may solve problems, distinguish between right and wrong, and bring order and peace to this wonderful community we call home. Amen.
Thank you. Director Burke, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me. Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you both for doing that. All right, moving on, roll call. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Castillo? Here. Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Councilmember Terry?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, closed session report. Mr. City Attorney, this one's yours.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 1, the council gave settlement direction by consensus. No other reportable action.
Perfect. All right, we are moving on now to our ceremonial matters. Okay, so this is the fun part of the job. We get to look at some awesome people in the community, so bear with me as I read this. This one's for you, Mr. Cook and Brian Hoffman. As most of you know, during Hurricane Hillary, we all didn't know what was going to go on, and so we kind of prepared for it. And if you're a Canyon Laker, you know you better have some sandbags when it comes to raining. So you got to be prepared. So bear with me because this is a really awesome story, and I was really excited to honor these two men who came forward and really helped out the community and stepped up at a time when we had no clue what was going to happen, especially with the rains here. So Tropical Storm Hillary struck Southern California on the weekend of August 18th. The city staff had been actively preparing for the storm by monitoring weather predictions and being in close coordination with the POA. As part of the storm preparation, the first department ordered enough sand to fill about 1,000 bags, equivalent to the amount of the department normally purchases in this for the entire year. Between August 17th and 19th, the city and the POA had procured enough sand for over 2,000 bags, all of which has been used and was taken by Canyon Lakers. But thanks to Tim Cook and Mr. Hoffman, who's in the audience, stepped up and arranged for an additional 8 yards of sand to be delivered to the fire department. With additional sandbags, the fire chief and the sand delivered by Tim and Brian was enough to go on for another 4 hours. So, you know, for us, this is the kind of stuff that makes Canyon Lake, and I just want to say thank you both. I want to present you with a certificate for special recognition. We, the council, absolutely love this kind of stuff because it really what identifies us from other cities. So when we get to go talk about what we do in Canyon Lake, this is the stuff that we're doing for our people. So if you don't mind, can you please come up here and join me and the council as we give you a certificate of recognition. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, guys, all of us. course. We have a microphone that has batteries in it.
All right.
No budget cuts. There we go.
So I just wanted to let everyone know that I really didn't do this to get recognition. I told Tim Cook, don't tell anyone I did this. Mike Rosenswag over there in the corner, he was a part of it. Billy Mindy, Heavy Hitters, he was a part of it. And I had a big dump trailer on my truck, and at the time, and I saw on Facebook that they were out of sand. So I called the material yard, and we got 22,000 pounds for a pretty good deal, So we just delivered it, but I told Tim, don't tell anyone. I just wanted to do it to help the community, But here it is, and I guess he opened his big mouth, but yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I didn't want recognition. I didn't do it for this. So just been in Canyon Lake my whole life, trying to pay it forward.
I didn't really do much except call the chief and make phone calls to middleman, so
See, that's what it's about.
got everybody together.
All right, we're going to take a photo. Thank you, guys. Seriously, appreciate you so much. All right. So, did you guys just do that? It happens.
Something's wrong.
Okay, so this month, we had our Citizen of the Month, and it was actually Perry. I think it's fitting with the car show and all that he does. He's on a cruise, rightfully so. He tries to get out of Dodge the moment the car show is over with. So he's our Citizen of the Month, and we're going to honor him next month. But this month, along with Breast Cancer Awareness, is a proclamation that we're going to present to our fire chief. And I believe, is he here? Yes, there he is. We're going to give a proclamation to the fire chief because this is Fire Prevention Week. And the Fire Prevention Week was established in 1925, and it is the longest running public health observance in our county. It is observed each year during the week of October 9th in commemoration of the Great Chicago Fire, which began on October 8th back in 1871 and left 100,000 homeless and destroyed more than 17,400 structures. Wow. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about it as we present this to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I think it's important that this year's theme is prevent cooking fires. And as we look at our young existence here in Canyon Lake, our two most significant fires that we've had have been from kitchen and cooking fires. And so we really need to pay due diligence. If you turn on the stove or the oven, stay there, be with it. It's like charging your golf cart. Don't leave home while you're charging it. When you're cooking, put the pot handles in. They're simple things, but there's a lot we can do. These are very preventable fires, and we're trying to get the word out. This week, we're out in the schools. We're out at the community church. We were there on Monday. We'll be there again tomorrow. We were at the library today teaching the children fire safety tips and techniques, giving them tours of the fire station, and it's really important that we just continue to communicate our message, and we appreciate you recognizing this.
Perfect. Can we do a photo with the guys in pink, obviously, and then as the council? This is so cool. One more photo, y'all. Thank you, Chief. And those are bright. I love it. I love it. It's great. Yeah, we got to There we go.
We all get there? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm taking a bunch of them. Okay, you're good. Thank you.
Does he want me to do this, or you're going to do it? There you go. Okay, we have one more. So Councilmember Mark Terry and myself and Who else was there? Darcy was there. Also, our city manager was there. We all had the opportunity to be part of Bluebells. I've been going now for the last has it been 4 years now? I've led the prayer in Bluebells. So me and Mr. Terry here were extremely overwhelmed by the hard work and dedication that our council member puts on every single year. She puts on this incredible event, and for us, being able to be your colleagues and see you in action, and being able to see so many men and women in uniform, and the passion that you have, not just because of your job, but because of who you truly are as a person, we want to honor you for what you do. So we want to present this certificate to you. So come on up. The whole council come up, if you don't mind. It's not like you're retiring or anything, or you're leaving us. I know.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. So the entire council, and this was a surprise that, Mark just found out about, but him and I had some serious conversations about what you do, and we just love you to death, and we appreciate all hard work, so.
Make me very happy and very honored. Thank you. I'm gonna frame this in my Canyon Lake office. Oh, I did.
That's the best part. Signed it, you didn't even know. All right. Okay. And I tried to do that last month, but you were out. So I was like, no, we're going to continue this forward. So anyways, those are ceremonial matters. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Cook. I know he's gone. And thank you, Mr. Hoffman. We appreciate it, all the hard work, just everyone in this community. All right, we are now moving on to community reports. Director Burke is in the house. Before we let your GM come forward with a presentation, and we are prepared to drill him with a ton of questions. We all wrote out things on our laptops. I am going to, if you don't mind, Director, can you tell us what you did today at 9 a.m. and a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. So, and I wanted to thank Mayor Pro Tem Welty for joining us. So today was a really big day for Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. We did a groundbreaking for our regional reclamation expansion project. It was about $250 million. I keep saying I think it's going to come in at $280 million. But that's the largest project our district has ever undertaken. And through low-interest loans and some state revolving fund money and grants and things, we're saving our customers about $70 million so far on that project. That expansion is going to allow us to serve the people that we know are coming. And it's really important that we're ready. You can't really build a wastewater plant overnight. And if there's one thing you appreciate when it doesn't work immediately, is when you flush the toilet and it doesn't work. So I know wastewater isn't sexy and wonderful, but it's certainly necessary. And we recycle every drop of that water. So it'll help us, allow us to put more water into Lake Elsinore, but it'll also allow us to explore new opportunities in what we call indirect potable reuse. We'll be able to take that water and recharge the groundwater basin. And at some point, explore direct potable reuse, which is a whole other conversation where it may actually one day become drinking water. So it was a very big day for us. We were very grateful to have so many of our community partners and funders there, and something that, we want the community to know that we're ready. When you're ready to grow, we're right there with you. And our job is to make sure that we ensure public health and safety, both on the drinking water side and on the wastewater side, and on the environmental side through our water recycling. So it was a very big day. So I really appreciate the support that I always get from the city, and from the city manager for coming as well. It was very much appreciated. The only thing else I wanted to talk about was last week I gave testimony at the State Water Resources Control Board on something called conservation is the way of life. And the way they have calculated certain things, those of us that have chosen to live in a bit of paradise, none of our children would be able to play on grass. None of our children. So I proposed my comments based on an inequity that if we lived on the coast and we had more privileged socioeconomic conditions, then those children can play on grass, but our children will not be able to play on grass. And the importance of being outside and playing on grass for mental and physical health and well-being, and having the opportunity through sports. I used their arguments that they always tell us about, and they negated every single one of them I gave them. So what I'm going to ask you, Mayor and City Manager, is we have a draft of the letter that I need you to stand up and say no. I have asked our board at our last board meeting to budget for willful disobedience, up to $10,000 a day. I've calculated that's a lot cheaper than compliance. All the different things they want us to do, it's just not something I believe in. You have always answered when we asked you to use less. These draconian measures are not who we are. We're about public health and safety. They're not talking about building storage or fixing conveyance. They're only talking about less than 10% of the water users bearing the brunt of something that they feel that is within their mantra, and they have no accountability to the voters. So, when I become water czar, that's one of the first things I'm going to fix. But I'm happy to take any questions, and if you would consider supporting an effort like that to make sure our kids have the same access that others would, I would appreciate that. Happy to take any questions.
I have a question. When you say that it will eliminate grass, can you go further into what that
Sure.
includes?
So what they're going to do is they're going to tell us how much water per person per day you can have, including outdoor evotranspiration, which I know is a very big word, but basically how much outdoor irrigation you can use. And because our area is very arid and dry, the water you would be able to allocate to put on your grass would never be enough to sustain it. We would be
Right.
required to police you. I don't believe in being a water police agency.
Does that include not just grass, but other plants as well?
Correct.
So vegetables?
If you, depending on the vegetable, yes.
That's crazy.
That's a word. So I can't make this up, right? If you look at the climate of how these regulations work, they work very well in coastal areas. They work really well in high-density areas. They do not work for the rest of the state. If you look where your State Water Resources Control Board comes from, high probability they come from the San Francisco Bay Area. So if we don't speak up, and, I don't like to budget for non-compliance. That's not what public health is about. This has nothing to do with public health. It's the exact opposite. Dust, more heat. Grass is safer to play on. Grass mitigates heat. They don't want to talk about that.
Turf is hot.
Synthetic turf is hot. And may I also talk about one of the key components of synthetic turf? It's one of my favorites, PFAS. But we don't want to talk about that either. So they would rather not have synthetic turf. They'd rather you just have dirt.
Right.
So I know you have time for my general manager, which I really appreciate. So happy to take any questions after, or you all have my number. So thank you very much for your time.
Can we have a link to the letter in case any of our residents also want to?
Absolutely.
Write it.
So I will have our staff send that to the city manager, and then they can modify as well. And make it personal, how it affects your family. I mean, I know, Councilman Castillo, your boys play football,
And they play on the Canyon Lake Little League
Yep.
baseball field.
and we talk about potholes, but imagine if there was no grass.
Director Burke, I got a question for you. There's quite a few. My dad actually lives in one in Calamasa where they have their own well system.
Doesn't matter.
How's that impacting private
Doesn't matter.
wells? Doesn't matter.
We have private wells too. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have our own source. This has nothing to do with source of water
Yeah.
at all. This has to do with control. And I would say far-reaching control that has nothing to do with. I know there's a lot of conversation. Riverside Public Utilities, for example, they have their own wells in groundwater basin. They don't take State Water Project. They don't take Colorado River. There's going to be litigation. But during that time, it's the consequences of the enforcement. And it's a very short time for enforcement, and that my general manager correct me, but I think it's 2025 they start enforcing certain things. It ratchets it down quite quickly.
Do you believe that the organization that you represent has the manpower to enforce?
Not even close.
And so my question then is of course, in order to make that a reality, agencies like yourself is going to have to depend on local municipalities such as our own to enforce some of these rules that we don't necessarily agree with.
I don't know if that would even be possible given the type of technical nature to it, which is why I said I would rather budget for willful disobedience and pay the fine every day, it's still far cheaper
Right.
than implementation. So I know that's probably not very popular with some people, but it's going to be necessary.
It's just important that we know.
Yep.
I was at there we are, Southern California Association of Government. The discussion was gray water, and I went forward and I said, well, every area has their own issues with gray water. And I said, in our watershed, the water hasn't reached the ocean, other than the saline line, in decades. So, and I said, at the bottom of our hill, we have environmentally sensitive areas where the gray water goes. For everyone to use gray water in our area is not the same as somebody who's living by the beach, whose sewage is going down into the ocean. I mean, as I think you said, we use our water, all of our water, at least once, if not twice or three times. So it's that particular need of our area as far as the grass goes. If you live by the ocean and you're getting that nice moist air, you can probably get some grass. You're out here in the arid land where it takes a little more watering. So it's important to realize that one shoe doesn't fit all feet, and that we need to stand up for our area.
100%.
And, you know, we don't need additional regulations to save water that doesn't serve anybody. All it does is create a lot of work for everybody, and it doesn't serve our purpose,
No,
which
it
is,
moves certain people's agenda
yeah,
and not ours.
and not the people's.
No.
Yeah, not the people's. So.
On that happy note, I will let our general manager know.
Would you introduce your general manager to us, please?
It would be my honor and privilege. So Greg Thomas, who is the general manager of Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District and retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Marine Corps. So I don't, if there's any Navy people, I'm sorry if I offended you. Greg has brought a fresh air to our water district, really about innovation and our operations. What you saw this morning, Mayor Pro Tem Welty, would not have happened without Greg's leadership and having the right people in the seat, and really making us a stellar organization, not just in our region, but across the nation. We've been featured on national television for our innovation, and we are really moving things forward. And some of the things Greg is going to talk to you about is some of the things that we're having to deal with in the reality of the world we're living in. So, did I miss anything, Greg? No. Okay, there you go.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, council members, staff, and guests, and Director Berg is too nice. So appreciate those kind words. So I won't, again, I appreciate some time. I know this is, you all received some Proposition 218 flyers recently in the mail. So just want to cover some of what's going on, kind of give you an overview of it. Not going to drill down into the weeds on this, but again, it's just a taste. And if you have questions, definitely.
We won't bother you.
I know. You have a
We'll play
busy-
nice.
You've had a busy night.
We'll play
so,
nice.
Again, just a quick, I'll just go over who we are. You all know who we are, but kind of touch the sewer rate adjustment aspects, water shortage contingency surcharges aspects, and then what's next, and giving the public and everybody an opportunity, all our customers, how they can get involved. If you have questions, concerns, I'll follow up with that, as well as if you want to submit letters of protest for or against, or protest or against. If there's letters for it, you'll understand that we definitely are always transparent in that regards, as is the city here. So real quick, EVMWD, about 160,000 people, of course. Canyon Lake, the city of Canyon Lake is one of our main customers. Of course, we have the lake and our water treatment plant, but we're not talking water today. So 75% of our water does come imported right now. With the Canyon Lake water treatment plant down, that's where we're at the 75. We're usually around the 65%. So, and again, what Director Burke had mentioned about the PFAS, that's what basically took the plant down for now until we do the upgrades and add the additional treatment. So, and then 25% from our local wells and reservoirs. But what I'm talking about is really the sewer rate adjustments, the proposed sewer rate adjustments. The board will take action on these. So November 9th at 4 p.m. at our board meeting, we'll have a public hearing, and everybody's invited to Zoom in, attend in person, et cetera, submit letters. And again, they're going to consider new sewer rates and water shortage surcharges, 2 separate hearings in our boardroom. And so these are the reason why. What is driving those rates? Basically, as we all know, significant increases in inflation. The board actually approved water and sewer rates 2 years ago. We are not doing anything with the water rates in that regard, but our sewer rates, mainly because our costs of treating sewage is very heavily dependent on electricity, and we have seen significantly our 37% increases in our electric rates. And the cost of chemicals in several cases, chlorine and ammonia, which is, we need it to clean it, especially with the recycled water going to Lake Elsinore, and we treat every drop and use it locally. We're looking at 120% increases in some of our chemical costs. So those continue to compound and add on that. We are at 75% of our capacity, so with the growth, we have the growth coming up, but we were butting up. There's a regulation that basically says when you hit 75% of your rated capacity, you have to build additional capacity. And we are at that point, and sometimes, some days we're over, some infill growth, some new development, et cetera. And then with the expansion, we have to add the additional staff. So as we know, operations and maintenance does cost money in that regards. So that's what's driving our sewer rates and why we're proposing new sewer rates. So I'll give you a sample bill right here. This is a water and sewer. And in the red box, it basically, I will expand that out if you can see that. So basically right now, for a 4-person household, based on how our sewer rates are set, it's $54.18 for a basic 4-person household using a certain amount of water. And with the proposed rates, it will go up to $58.97. So just under $5 a month increase in our sewer rates. And that's what we're looking at. And again, just a reminder that the sewer rate is the only rate that's being proposed.
Mr. GM, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, how many people actually open their bills digitally? I think she
Small
knows.
percentage.
Very small percentage?
Small percentage.
Very small, like teeny? Couple percent? Okay. Keep going.
You're welcome. Thank you, actually. So if there are any questions on that, so that's where we're at with that. And where does your sewer dollar go? Basically, all district costs are driven by state and federal regulations. And this kind of breaks down the dollar when you look at it. About 15%, well, let's start from the left. 26% is sewer operations. About 23% is capital improvements. Those are fixing pumps, different motors, larger pieces. 23% to the administration side, 13% to debt. We debt finance a lot of what we do. It, you know, as Director Burke mentioned, we have a $200 and some million, but that's not in the rates. That future expansion is not part of the rates. These are all previous, like we just finished a $40 million upgrade to the sewer treatment plant, our water reclamation facility, in preparation for the expansion. So that would be part of what your dollar goes to. And then 15% is your regulatory compliance. It's all regulatory compliance, but this is kind of like your specific labs. We have to sample every day. We're constantly taking samples, sending them out, doing regulatory reporting, those types of things. And so again, everything we do basically is driven by state and federal regulations, and we have to meet that. As Director Burke says, and as we know, health and safety is our number one priority, and it is always at the top of our mission and what we look at. And we understand that, you know, again, there's a impact to the rates, and for those who are in a disadvantaged, I wanted to commend the board that they have a RARE program, Rate Assistance for Residents of Elsinore Valley. So anybody who is on a SCE or SoCal Gas Care program, rates, we don't require additional backgrounds or anything like that. If you're a care customer, you come into us, you tell us you're a care customer, and the board is using non-rate revenue. We provide a offset to that. Right now, it's $32.68 that goes against the low income, so the disadvantaged. And then we've also been assisting with LIWAP. We've assisted customers, same thing, low income, over $350,000 in the last couple of years with some state and federal government money for that. And those are some of the programs we're working for to offset these costs. So the board is looking at, as part of this, the same Prop 218, et cetera, but they're looking at offering our low-income customers a $5 rebate to the sewer-only portion of that. So for those, they will see a zero impact in that regards, or an increase. So I commend the board for their visionary aspects related to that. So that could be $37.58. That's a sizable amount of their water bill. In summary, just again, rate adjustments due to these reasons, primarily energy, chemicals, regulatory, and staffing. We do a lot of things to minimize. We beat up our vendors as much as possible on low income, we compete for getting the best value and the lowest cost on chemicals, other things. And we're also, as she mentioned, grants and low interest loans. We are continuously beating the bushes for that, federal money, free money, grants especially, or like right now for our expansion in our past, our low interest rate, our SRF loans, state revolving fund, 0.9%. Where if we went out on the open market with a bond, we're looking at 4.5%. So that's a significant savings that our staff is continuously looking at. And again, the hearing is going to be held November 9th at 4 p.m. We are holding a next Tuesday at 6 p.m., a special study session for the board where we will present the rates in a more in-depth, I'm giving you the 30,000-foot level. So we'll be presenting that to our customers. It's an open session, open meeting, and everybody's definitely welcome, and then can ask as many questions as they want in that regards.
It's becoming very hard to do water in California, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Nearly impossible.
Yes, it is. As far as the proposed water shortage surcharges, that is, why is it needed? We do what's called a water shortage contingency plan. Basically, the way we do our plans, the state comes out, Department of Water Resources comes out, and we all, there, if you remember the 2015 to 17 drought, a lot of water agencies, different folks. In fact, our wholesale agency had a different contingency, or the way they used a drought surcharge or a drought stage. So we may have been a 2A, our wholesaler might have been a 3, DWR could have been a 4. So there was a lot of no alignment in those regards. So Department of Water Resources came out and said, basically, we're 6 stages, and so we're just in the process of, we adopted our water shortage contingency plan 2021. We're just bringing everything in cycle. Our surcharges at that point were from 2015. Of course, as you can see, rates have changed since then. So we're just trying to align everything in that regards. Again, it's used for revenue shortfalls during the drought. If you're cut back 35%, of course, we see a revenue shortfall. We do still have the maintenance and the operations to in that regards of the system. But one of the things that the board, that's only used, the surcharge is only used or implemented if the board votes that way. And we know the board, it doesn't usually like those. And so, again, but we have to have everything in place if should there be a catastrophe, i.e. an earthquake and those aspects.
Yeah.
And how you can participate, go to our website. You had the 218 notice. Definitely come to our website, look up, the information is there. But basically submit a comment letter. Well, again, I mentioned October 17th at 6 p.m. We'll be presenting this information in a much larger scale with more details. And then, of course, attend the public hearing on November 9th. And to contact us, Christina Henry, that's her phone number and extension, as well as her email, and just go through, and of course, you can definitely go through our district secretary if anything you want to pass through Cheryl in that regards too. We'll take it in those regards, so.
Any questions, council?
Hard to know where to begin. We're excited about the treatment plant, at least from the watershed position. I understand that once it's in place and it's functioning, a significant amount of water is going to go to Lake Elsinore to sustain the lake, at least for now. And it's exciting, that our sister city next door, that lake always seems to be on the edge of being out of water. It was closed for water sports last year for a good part of the year. This opportunity to provide more water is just terribly exciting. It would be just great to have a sustainable water supply for that lake. And just want to say great job, and thank you, for putting that as part of the plan. Not that I know you could sell a lot of it and make a difference, but the chance to keep Lake Elsinore in a strong position is really encouraging.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any talk going on about holding facilities, building places to hold water. Is that, is that a thing in the past? Or are we going to have dams and aquifers and, that plan of attack? Is that even being talked about at all?
By, excuse me, by some of us it is, not necessarily registering with the Sacramento folks, but Sites Reservoir should be built sometime. Federal funding is available and all that, and we are asking the state to build what they said they would build.
Yeah.
But we definitely need to look at a lot more. We are projecting another rainy year.
Yep.
There's 460,000 acre feet of excess water, extra water that the Metropolitan Water District right now has up in that area that we would like to bring it down here. It's just where are we going to put it? So,
Right.
and if we get another rainy year, unfortunately, some of that's going to flow out to the ocean, and we've lost a great opportunity to really support what we really need in the state. I mean, people, but the environment and definitely agriculture. I like to eat, so a lot of the things that the state is pushing is really, really disheartening in some
It's
cases.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Appreciate you. Seriously,
Oh,
thank you for coming
appreciate
out.
it, Mary.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Director Burke, you got anything else?
Not at this time.
You good? Thank you for having your GM out. We really appreciate it. All right. Hope you get overtime for this. Sure. All right. Let's see here. Moving on. We are, where are we at? We at the POA time? Awesome. President Bill Van Vliet, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, council members, staff.
Here's my agenda.
Yes. Let's see. We had our October board meeting on October 3rd. It was a special one for us as we recognize our long-term chairs. And the committees are really the backbone of a lot of what goes on at the POA. Helps us run the overall community, help us provide us feedback, how to maintain the golf course, our security advisory committee, and just so many committees. The shortest term chair was 3 years. The longest term was 20 years of service. And that 20-year term was on our architectural control committee. He dedicates a full day every Tuesday and Wednesday as a volunteer. And if you add up the terms of service he had over 20 years, it was 1.5 years of his personal time.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. We also approved our new committee members, and so that's all going forward. In response to the sale of the fire station, we had heard some chatter or some concerns were raised in the community about, well, geez, does the POA have the ability to sell the golf course, the Happy Camp, the Equestrian Center? And so we introduced a resolution and passed it, 5-0 with our board, that this board promises that it will not sell any common property. And in addition, we introduced a ballot measure that will be on next year's ballot that says it will restrict any future board from selling any common area amenity. Okay, so that'll protect that overall. Two other ballot measures that are going in. One is the normal tax rollover that we have. If there's excess taxes or excess revenues that are collected, they roll over to the next tax year to help us avoid paying tax on that, or just roll it forward. And we're also, we've had a lot of contention in most recent elections, and so one of the things that will help us increase some more harmony in the community and also save costs, about $40,000 a year, is by spreading out our terms. As you know, we have 2-year terms, and directors can serve for two-year terms, which means we have an election every year. And as a result, we have signs everywhere, and we pay $40,000, $50,000 a year for an election every year. And so what we introduce is a ballot measure that says we will have future board terms will be 1 4-year term, which that means we can now fall more into compliance with, like the city does, of having an election every other year. So those are things that are coming. We'll put out a lot more details on that overall. Our roads project, Phase 2, is going to kick off in January. And that's going to take mostly the northern part of our community as well as the western side along Longhorn in that area over there. We gave a 6-month update on our community security overall. We gave the statistics and so forth. We're starting to norm in, much like the city does and the sheriff does every month, and we're getting into that routine to provide that statistics on what our community patrol does for our community. We passed a new set of e-bike rules for the community, and that'll start to take effect in March. And I just got out of a security advisory committee meeting, and we are launching a neighborhood watch pilot. So it's in collaboration with RSO, and it'll be in the old Wrangler neighborhood, and that'll kick off next month as well. And so with that, our next board meeting is November 7th. So before you go to the Water District meeting on the 9th, please stop by the
Absolutely,
POA.
good timing. Any questions for our president? The POA? Nope. You're off the hook tonight, my
Thank you
friend.
very
Thank
much.
you for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
Appreciate you. All right. Now we're moving on to our president of the Chamber of Commerce. We've been hanging out lately. Yeah, it's good seeing you again. It's good seeing you at Tony's ribbon cutting. That was awesome. We were just talking about that at coffee this morning, how it was really cool having hot dogs at a ribbon cutting.
We haven't seen hot dogs at ribbon cuttings yet. We've seen other things, but
Yeah.
hot dogs, that was a lot of fun.
It was
And,
awesome. It was a
the
good
car
time.
show was a lot of fun this weekend for those of you there. Beautiful cars,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor. So,
fun.
so Mayor Smith, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city staff, esteemed citizens and residents, I'm thrilled to be here once again. Speaking of ribbon cuttings, we've really been ramping up. Because we've had some fluctuations in our events director, we fell behind a little on ribbon cuttings, but we've really been, kind of just one right after the other. And they're a lot of fun. They're great for the morale of the business community. So recently, we've had ribbon cuttings for Culture Club, Yard Fresh, Canyon Lake, Mobile Repair. Got a few more coming up between now and the end of the year. Our Battle of the Business event, which I talked a lot about leading up, was a huge success.
Nice.
We had 10 teams, I think, that participated, all represented by different businesses. We had about 200 people show up, DJ, food trucks. Weather was perfect as opposed to the car show weather.
Yeah.
We were really nervous about it because, end of September,
Yeah.
beginning of October can be hit or miss as far as heat is concerned. But we had a lot of fun. The participating businesses came back and said, hey, this was a lot more fun and a lot more effective than just having a networking event where we're all handing each other business cards. So we're excited to do it again. The winner of the event was Monarch Dumpsters, and they will receive the perpetual trophy, and hopefully they'll be participating to defend that trophy. Parade of Frights is coming up on the 28th. That's about 2 weeks from now. That's our annual Halloween event, and we're currently, going door to door, getting businesses to be involved, hand out candy, hopefully even sponsor. So we're very excited about that. Our next business roundtable event, November 1st. I'm honored and thrilled to have Chief Latendrous. He's going to be our presenter. He's going to be talking about the fire department inspection program. And that'll be at 7:15 a.m. at the Country Club. We always promise to have people out by 8:30 so they can get back to their busy days. I am also thrilled and honored to announce we do have a new member of our executive committee, and that's the role is Secretary Treasurer, and that is Cassidy Eden of Eden Accounting. So not only is Eden just a great person to work with and very friendly and just outgoing, but she's also an accountant.
Yeah.
And we're just great to have someone who understands, general accounting practices to really, kind of fine tune how we run our business and budget for certain things, or I shouldn't say business, our organization. Our next event is going, aside from the business roundtable, is going to be our Women in Business event. So that's going to be on November 13th at the Sports Stop. It's in the evening. I'm sorry, I don't know the time. I think that usually starts around 6 o'clock or something like that. So encourage all the women who are involved in business to show up. I won't be there. And also, my biggest joy when I come up here is when we get to announce our Business of the Month. So this is really exciting because this month's Business of the Month is someone who has always been very, very supportive of the chamber. When we've decided to go completely, work telecommuting, but we needed a little space to store a few things we have, this business stepped up and said, we have a corner in our office you can use for that. Whenever we ask for any kind of a contribution as far as time and help and professional expertise, the partner of this firm always steps up, never asks twice. And in addition, because we are a community that values first responders, the Castillo Harper Law Firm, who specializes in defending first responders, provides a very valuable service to the things that are valuable to Canyon Lake. So second time tonight, Casey Castillo is being honored, so along with her partner, Ms. Harper. So thank you very much. Congratulations, Casey.
Love it. Good job.
Okay, and that's everything I came to talk about. Any questions?
Any questions? Keep it up, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome
We're
job.
trying. All right, we'll see you at
Appreciate
State of the
you.
City.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate you. All right, moving on. Public safety updates. Ruby, you are up with our code enforcement.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff. So for the month of September, we had one unpermitted construction violation. Notice of violation was issued. One MPDS violation, one overgrown weed, one lack of property maintenance, one green pool. And down to our BLM, we issued one citation, 10 verbal warnings were given, 2 fresh bonfires were found, debris was cleaned up. And there was a small fire on BLM, and I'm sure that our fire chief will elaborate on that more. And we had 2 abandoned vehicles. Notice of violations were issued, and those have since been cleared. 0 short-term rentals were found for the month of September. I apologize, I did put the month of May on there. And then down to our residential rental registrations, we had 10 new properties unregistered were found. They were issued notices of violations. We have 329 rental registrations currently. Out of those 329, 300 rentals are active and current. 29 are pending renewal. 10 inspections were conducted for the month of September. And then down to our business license, we have 2 new commercial registrations for the month of September, 4 new home occupations registered, 12 new out of cities, and 1 renewal. And that is all I have.
Question for you. How did the 10 new rental properties unregistered come about?
So our code enforcement officers, they'll look at Airbnbs, Zillow, Realtor, wherever we can find them.
Yeah.
And we found 10. That's actually a lot
Yeah.
compared to what we found the previous months as far as rentals.
Yeah. It's very,
Thank you.
it's very fascinating. And you know, the city manager and myself had conversations about this just because, you know, the number's so substantially low, because I truly believe we have 600 to 800 absentee homeowners in this community. So even with that, we still have, you know, conservatively probably 300 to 400 out of compliance in regards to this
Correct.
program. But I do appreciate the fact that code enforcement's being proactive. You know, I think it's disheartening just because this program's not in place at all to fine the citizens of Canyon Lake. It's to help prevent, in my world, landlord abuse. And I think that's the biggest issue here that needs to be relayed to our community, is that this program is to help out. And it makes our place a better place. It makes Canyon Lake a safer place, and homeowners will feel comfortable knowing that a rental that they live next to is compliant. So
agree.
I'm happy to see the proactiveness on this and the fact that that number is as large as it has been before. And it's good to hear that staff is going above and beyond, trying to look at, you know, alternatives to find other rentals. So, good job.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ruby? Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we have our Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Edwards. I owe you an apology, sir. You and I were on a Zoom meeting, and I got kicked off like 8 times, and I'm so sorry.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Lieutenant Edwards, the floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff. I have your September Public Safety Report. We had 413 calls for service, an increase of 20 from August. We had 8 Part 1 crimes, 2 aggravated assaults, 1 burglary, 1 larceny theft, 4 larceny thefts, 1 motor vehicle theft. Also, we had 0 traffic citations. We investigated 9 traffic collisions. We had 3 arrests made, 2 for DUI, 1 for battery of a spouse. You can see the comparison down below. Priority 1 calls were at 6.8 minutes, and priority 2 are sitting at 26.3 minutes. That's all the excitement that I have for you.
Any questions for our lieutenant? Any questions?
Anything good?
Easy getting
I
off
just
the
want-
hook.
Trying to get that. I think you did a nice job in the summer on the parks. I think the amount of complaints, or at least I've heard about vandalism and kids running wild in the parks, seemed to be down. There was an offset, of course, to the e-bike success that is we're still working through. But yeah, I just want to commend you on keeping the parks at least under control.
Thank
And
you.
I
Yeah,
know
we-
it's every year's a new year, every day's a new day.
Right.
But this year it seemed to work out, so
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
push it out to the patrol deputies and let them know, so they just patrol the parks, and so they pull a file number every time they go out to the parks and check them, and so it's working out really well.
Awesome. Any other questions for Lieutenant?
I have one question.
Councilwoman Castillo?
And this is really kind of, I think I know the answer, but I just kind of am hoping to educate the public as well.
Yeah.
So we have 3 arrests in the city of Canyon Lake in September.
Okay?
But we have 413 calls for service. So the calls for service are not specifically just calls that come into dispatch, right? Those are deputy-generated
Yeah,
events.
so it could be a variety of things, right? So it's the deputies that if they go to the parks, they do area checks, they will pull a file number so that we can track that. And then if you guys ask for how many times are you patrolling Holiday Harbor, I could tell you. The other things, you get a lot of 911 mobile calls. So you'll get those, a lot of domestics, a lot of neighbor disputes. So that's all in there. That doesn't necessarily result in an arrest.
Okay, and so in this instance with the battery of a spouse arrest, is that something that would necessarily be forwarded to a detective bureau, or is that stop with the arrest?
Typically, that stops with the arrest, right? So the deputy that will go out there, they'll investigate it, and if it's just a simple domestic at a house, and you take the primary aggressor and you're done with it.
Okay. And are some of those instances, and not specific to battery of a spouse, but some of those instances, when you're making an arrest, you're not actually taking someone every single time, right? You can cite them.
So when we're referring to this is an arrest, right? This is where they're typically booked. Out of custodies aren't statted in this.
Okay.
So if they submitted an out of custody report, like say they weren't there at the house and we have enough probable cause that they committed the crime, they could submit that to the DA. That's not statted here.
Okay, so that would, but that would be in the generated calls for service?
It would,
Okay.
right. Yeah, because it would be a file number.
Perfect, thank you.
So just to clarify on the calls number dealing at 413, if a deputy patrols, and I'm just reiterating,
Yep.
a deputy patrols a park and he notes that, is that considered a call?
Correct.
So that would be one of the 413s of some capacity, right?
Yeah, so when we're referring to calls for service, it's files generated.
Got it, that helps.
Right.
So do we have a number of actual people calling 911?
Yeah, we do.
Do we know what, can we get that, if you don't mind?
I could.
Moving forward?
Yeah.
Just for the, for that, because that helps a lot with, now that, and I already knew all this too, I read it differently, so, but now that I'm trying to put my lenses on from someone else, it's like, okay, what are the actual, I pick up the phone, call 911, are we getting per day? And I think that number, we're averaging between 4 and 6 a day. I just want to make sure that's accurate, factual.
Yeah, I can
So-
break that down in the stats, and that way we can let you know what's self-generated versus
Yeah,
actual called in.
yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
No, well, so, yeah, one more question. So related to the calls for service, if they are patrolling the town center or they're patrolling like the hotel area, but there's no arrests, is that patrol, which isn't necessarily Holiday Harbor, but a destination in the city, is that considered a file number as well?
Those typically are not, right? So if they're just driving through the town center, it's not going to be a file. If they're going to one of the parks, they're getting out, they're walking it, they'll pull a file for it so that we can stat how many times they've gone to the parks and did area checks for the parks.
Okay, so in the month, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding this, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In the month of September, we had 413 calls for service. No arrests came out of the town center, because I don't see warrant arrests either, right? And no,
What do you mean out of the town center?
well, if you're saying town center patrol is just a patrol and not necessarily a call for service, but the arrests are 2 DUIs, probably not in the town center, right? Because that's
Right,
private
it could
property.
be like on Railroad or.
Right.
Yeah.
And then battery of spouse, probably not in the town center either, right? So we're talking about in
We're-
some kind of gate, unless it's the DUIs.
As far as all the calls for service?
No, I'm just talking about the arrests.
Yeah, I would have to get the specific locations of the arrest, but it could be in the town center, it could be on Railroad Canyon, or in the actual POA. So
Okay.
anywhere in this area that is Canyon Lake, right?
Okay. But
'Cause
just like, if I'm looking at 2 DUIs and a battery of a
Yeah.
spouse, most likely none of that happened in the actual town center.
It's possible
Because, I mean, I think it's a good point, just because I read it as 2 DUIs issued for arrest, which means the only place that I'm aware that the sheriff's department is writing citations on, or pulling over for DUI is Railroad Canyon,
For the most part.
for the most part. I mean, because even then, in the town center, it's still private property. Are you,
Unless they caught them leaving and then stopped them when they left the town center or something.
which
A lot
would,
of-
which would not happen until they left the town
Until they
center?
left.
Because they would have to enter Railroad Canyon before a DUI could even take place.
Right, they're gonna get driving actions and everything once they leave the town center.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I read it, and this is a good educational process, that essentially, you know, the two DUIs was outside of the gates. I think the battery of a spouse was most likely a call inside the gates of someone calling on that, and that,
Possibly.
unless it was at a restaurant or something, but most
Or it was in a
likely.
car, I mean, it could be,
Right.
it could be anything.
Okay.
Without getting, I mean, I can narrow down the stats and we could try to narrow that down and let you know the actual locations of those. One of the other things, like in previous reports, like your public intoxications, those are mostly from the town center, right? Those
Right.
are from bars in the town center.
Yeah, okay. Well, this was extremely helpful. Any other?
Yeah, I would be interested in knowing what was deputy generated versus what was actual, like, calls into dispatch.
Yeah, do you guys do heat maps in other cities, other jurisdictions?
Yeah, we have a crime analyst that puts all that stuff together and they're able to stat what calls are generated in what areas.
Yeah, is that something that is available to us here in Canyon Lake?
Yeah, we could.
Because it should only take like 3 seconds, right?
Yeah, our crime analyst actually puts it out all the time, so
Yeah.
I have all that information.
Okay. Anything else?
You're spoiled by the chief's heat maps.
I know, that's why I said it. And I got gummy bears, I'm in a good mood.
Is that who I can blame? So next you're gonna have me do a PowerPoint for 30 minutes? Is that correct?
No, we're not gonna do that to you.
Okay.
No, we
Okay,
should.
just let me know.
We're not
Give me
gonna
a
do that
heads
to you.
Okay.
No, but the heat map's kind of cool, right? And there's only like 3 dots, right? So I mean,
yeah,
you
I
know,
can-
he's got to do like 60 or so. So I mean,
Right.
hey, Lieutenant,
I'll do
appreciate
that,
you.
413 dots.
Yeah, yeah, there we go.
All right.
Hey, appreciate you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you,
With that, Mr. Heat Map, you're up.
Mr. Heat Map.
Our fire chief, take it away.
I don't know if I can follow that. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city staff, city public. Jeff Lieutenant, your fire chief, and I'm here to present your September Fire Department Public Safety Report. So during the month of September, we had 73 emergency responses. Of those emergency responses, we had 1 fire call. We had 55 medical incidents. We had 6 service calls. We had 7 good intents. We had 4 false alarms, and that adds up to the 73 responses. Ironically, this is our slowest month since we started operations on January 1st, 2022. Where was that fire? The fire, as Ruby already talked about, was on September 28th. It was a vegetation fire on BLM land. It was about a half a mile north of the fire station. Fire personnel initially went out on a boat. We reconned one from the boaters on the North Lake to determine the exact location of where the fire was so we could determine our ingress. We then dispatched the Type 6. Type 6 arrived and extinguished the fire. We had called code enforcement out there to assist with possibly gaining access. On their way out there, they encountered a person hiding in the bushes. We called law enforcement out there. Menifee PD and RSO assisted, but finally, we got a CAL FIRE police officer out there, and they actually arrested the person for arson. So that was our first arrest for an arson crime. Our time of day when the incidents occur, again, remained pretty steady. Although this month we did have a pretty significant drop in early afternoon. So that's just, again, as we keep track of this so we know when to plan our activities, and we try to plan those activities during the slower time periods. We did have a it's not moving, Mike.
We did have batteries that worked. There it is, it's working. Mike.
That's why the lieutenant doesn't want to do a PowerPoint.
Yep, exactly.
The next slide that I was going to talk to is where our incidents were occurring, and we did have another incident at the fire station. We talked about that last month, and it was a gentleman who had the heart attack at the front door of the fire station at 6:30 in the morning. It actually occurred on Labor Day, so we talked about it because it was an active thing when we were there. Mr. Mayor, would you like me to continue, or it looks like he's got it back up now?
Yeah, he's got it now.
There we go.
Perfect.
Our average EMS response time for the month of September went up just 2 seconds. It was 47 seconds. Our average travel time went down to 4 minutes and 58 seconds, and our total response time also, it went up just 1 second to 5 minutes, 39 seconds. So again, pretty good times that we're getting out of the station and responding to the call. Our 90% fractile EMS response time, again, just slightly went up to 1 minute, 21 seconds. Our goal is 1 minute, 45 seconds. Our travel time of 7 minutes and 14 seconds, so that did go down, and the overall response time went down to 8 minutes and 11 seconds. This is a heat map, and these were...
What is it?
It's a heat map.
Got it.
And this is where the calls for service were during the month of September, actually, inside Canyon Lake. Automatic and mutual aid given during the month of September. We had Riverside County Fire respond 9 times into the city. 8 were in the Lake Elsinore zip code area, and 1 was in Good Hope. Thus far this year, we responded 134 times outside the city, 105 in Lake Elsinore, 14 in Menifee, 5 in Good Hope, 3 in Wildomar, 6 in Paris. I'm sorry, 1 in Paris, and 6 in other areas such as Riverside City, March Air Force Base, Thermal, El Centro, and Lakeland Village. And those were actually when we were covering another jurisdiction for some reason or another. And this is where we have responded to thus far this year. Again, this is another heat map. On that note, we will be breaking these out for each month now. So what I wanted to do, instead of saying that the incident occurred in the zip code, we'll be able to see exactly where the incident occurred. So we'll be able to track a little bit better. Is it occurring in Good Hope? Is it occurring in Meadowbrook? And I think it's better data for us to have.
Right.
So again, 134 incidents thus far this year outside the city. In comparison, Riverside County responded into the city 11 times during the month of September. So far this year, they've responded 79 incidents into our city. And again, a detailed map showing of where they respond, and the Railroad Canyon Road Town Center area is the most common area that they do respond to.
Chief, would you mind going back 1 slide? Just want to note that I believe that's
One more?
Yeah, the photo of the helicopter I believe that's the Sheriff's Department helicopter, right?
It is the Sheriff's Department helicopter. And so the Sheriff's Department, along with Riverside County Fire, responded to a Jeep that had rolled down a hill on the BLM land.
So if they can land on Vacation Drive, they could definitely do a heat map for us, huh? Would you agree, Chief?
I would agree.
Okay.
And I'd also like to note out that next week, we will be training with the Sheriff's Department on their helicopter operations.
Thank you. It's a pretty cool picture.
Our training for the month of September, our motto this month was, if you don't find the time, if you don't do the work, you won't get the results. So A shift had 27 hours for a total of 706 hours year-to-date. B shift had 28 hours for a total of 613. And C shift had 31 hours for a total of 843 hours. The focus this month, we had our biannual staff meeting with our officers. We teach them how we want them to work throughout the day, so that counts as our training. We sent one of our firefighters to low-angle rescue training at the Ben Clark Training Center, and so we're going to be implementing our rope rescue program by the end of this year. We had company hose drills, which focused on fire attacks. We did simulation on house fires. Our reserves focused on ropes and notch. And again, we sent the rest of the crews back up to Black Horse, where we're planning interface operations if we have a wildlife fire there.
Will B shift always have lower hours because
It
of the work
appears that
schedule?
way every month they have. We have seen that.
It's just, is it the work schedule? Is that why?
I think some of them are just a little more aggressive than the
Yeah.
others, and so that's what it is.
Okay, so A shift's not trying to buy hours from B shift?
No.
Okay.
Public education community outreach. This month, we focused on the tropical storm Nicole, homeschool station tour. We participated in the golf field cleanup. Girl Scout Troop 135 stopped by the station for a tour. We were at the Bassmasters Kids Fishing Tournament. We were at the Cultural Cannabis Grand Opening. We're at the Family Matters Superhero event, and then we did the CPR recognition at the fire station. We also were part of the 9/11 event in support with everybody else that we see up there. So it was a very humble day, and it was a great ceremony, both ceremonies, including the POAs, that pay tribute to those lost and who continue to die from the effects of 9/11.
Did a great job representing the department, Chief.
Thank you. And then finally, there's our guys. Sorry they had to run out, but we're wearing pink in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm disappointed that they're not here because they were going to come up and make an announcement that they will be donating to the Susan G. Corman Foundation, the Firefighters
That's
Association. So that's my presentation, and I'm available for any questions if you have some.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Council?
I thought it was interesting, the statistic that we've gone outside the city 134 times, and CAL FIRE's come in 79 times. So 55 times more we've gone out of the city in mutual aid.
Yeah, and I'd like to clarify that that is incident responses. So sometimes when we have a structure fire, they'll send 3 units, 3 engines into our city. So I think if you looked at it from a couple different perspectives, I still consider it to be very equitable.
Okay.
But more often than not, call-wise, we're going outside to assist them.
So we're good neighbors.
I believe we are good neighbors, and I think they recognize that.
I love it. Thank you.
That's important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Good job, appreciate you. That's our public safety update. All right, we are moving on. Do we have any public comments? Madam
Mayor,
Clerk?
we do not.
Okay, we're moving on to committee and council member reports. So let's do this, let's start this way. Mr. Terry, kick us off, and we'll just go right down the line. Does that work? No Russian roulette today, or tonight. So, Mr. Terry, you're up. Report time.
Good evening. Pretty busy month, to say the least. I first of all would like to apologize to Tony Schwartzman of Canyon Lake Mobile Golf Cart, the Eastern Valley Municipal Water District, and their groundbreaking, and this month's business roundtable. Those are events that I truly wished I could have attended. Spent some time out of state and unfortunately was unable to make it, but I'm happy to hear that they were all great events. Had the opportunity to go to my first League of California Cities. I would say I'm not a team builder. In other words, I kind of believe just go out, do your job, go home, spend time with your family. But I must say that the time that I spent with my fellow council members, as well as our city manager and our city attorney, I really, really did enjoy the time, came back inspired, and looking forward to going again next year. And thank you very much to our city attorney for doing a great job showing us around. Thank you very, very much. Had the opportunity yesterday to meet with Captain Rails and Lieutenant Edwards, and I think it was a very positive conversation in regards to ways that we can better communicate with our citizens, and thoughts on ways that we can increase our law enforcement presence in the city of Canyon Lake. And I'd like to thank both of you for your time, and thank you for putting up with the mayor and his Zoom call capabilities.
Sorry, guys.
Councilmember Dane allowed me to go to Student of the Month yesterday, and I must say that on the heels of what's been a pretty rough week with all the incidents and tragedies that has occurred in Israel. You know, you watch the news and you think to yourself, there's just not a lot of hope out there. And then you go to Student of the Month and you realize that inside that room is where all the hope is. And we had 3 incredible students from Temescal Canyon High School that were honored, and I look forward to having them here next month and recognize them further. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Welty.
And next, I just want to let you know that my daughter was married yesterday.
That's right.
And it was a great day. It was, my son's heading down to Carl Vincent today, and his commanding officer was generous enough to put him on an Uber. He ran up and got 3 hours in for the ceremony as the best man, and then he ran back down to get on the ship before it went out to sea. So it was a great event, and we're a blended family. Allison had 2 fathers, and the first couple of years were pretty chaotic. It was not so pretty, and that was 15 years ago, and for 13 years we've been great. But the importance of civility in conflict is such a big thing. And just to take this to where I'm going is I watch some of the political debates, and I'm watching it, and I'm angry, and I'm upset, and then I'm a little happy, and then I'm angry, and then they go to the talking heads, and of course I get angry and more upset, and then I get more calmer, and I say to myself, how am I going to make it for another year of this? But the bottom line is we're all neighbors. And while the election's going on, please remember the civility that we have with our neighbors is going to be with us for a long time. The election will come and go, but who lives next to you, who lives down the street, what your children do are going to be with us for decades. So please, despite all the conflict, please have respect for your fellow citizens in Canyon Lake. And I'd really like that to be part of the theme this year is let's remember we're all neighbors and not forget that. So I think that's incredibly important. The water company here was great. I'm on the Ledra, which is the local watershed. You know, again, the water never leaves our area, whether it's rain or it's water we buy. It goes to Elsinore. It goes to the little environmentally sensitive area down in Elsinore. So it's important that they are going to do these plants, and they are going to share that water down below in Elsinore. And one of our projects in Elsinore is this, we're going to be harvesting algae, and they're going to be taking it and putting it on trucks, hauling it up to the anaerobic digester up in Paris. So this project to maintain this environmentally sound system that we have, delicate system, is pretty wonderful. And we have to give it to the water company and to the cities that they really work hard to fight for our rights to have reasonable use of water and to use it effectively. So I just wanted to, cheer that on. So that's all I have for today.
Perfect. You want to go? You want me to? All right, we'll just all go, and then we'll just keep going down. All right, couple updates. I did something that I normally never do, and that is I watched our president yesterday give a spiel. But I was happy to hear that America is going to stand with Israel. I think all of us have been watching what's going on, and it's important that we pay attention and we understand, in my opinion, that the terrorist strategy that's going on across the world right now is disgusting. I'm happy to see that at least as a country, we're going to stand with Israel. Busy month. I think all of us have been extremely busy. There are 5 of us, and we try to do all we possibly can. Want to give just a couple updates. I always give a real estate update, so I'm going to start with that. For the month of September, we had 13 sales in Canyon Lake with the volume of about $8.9 million. Our median price here in Canyon Lake is $650,000. That's down 10%. From last year. The average price in August of 2023 is $688,000, so almost still keeping the trend of about $700,000 for our median average price. And that leads to a per square footage of about $338. So sales price range anywhere between as low as $465, which is actually surprising for Canyon Lake, up to $940 is what we're dealing with. So there's your real estate update, and I am not a realtor. All right, the other thing is RCTC. There's going to be a lot of road closures happening in the upcoming months, so I encourage residents that are watching this at home, if you have any concerns about your commute, you can go on RCTC's website and you will find out a hot map that'll show exactly where the patterns are at, and they'll give you alternative routes to go around it. We have a couple on the 91. They're going to do a Monday through Wednesday night closure on Green River. So I know a lot of us here commute on the 91, so just pay attention to that. Be mindful before you head out of the community. In regards to RTA, which is Riverside Transportation Agency, Mr. Terry informed me that there's going to be free bus rides, and that is correct. So you can hop on a bus and get a free ride into our lovely county. That's going to be happening. We do it throughout every summer, but the interesting ones that were happening that I think you saw was actually back in June, and that led from Friday through June 28th, and that was free rides for all available fixed routes. So it's kind of cool that they're doing those kind of programs. Ridership's up 21.7%. So transportation, at least public transportation, is starting to pick back up from our COVID numbers. Next year, Mr. Terry and myself are going on some bus rides together. All right, here's one that I want my colleagues to pay attention to, because it's something that we're going to have to make a decision, because I believe when you serve on regional boards, you are making the decision for the collective body, not for the individual. So the governor just signed a legislation, AB 1385, and this allows for a sales tax to be increased. So right now, RCTC will be looking at a sales tax measure, most likely next year, to be put on the ballot. I will be voting how my colleagues tell me to vote. And there's going to be some controversy with this, because obviously the dollars are needed for projects, but we're having issues with how those dollars are being spent. So I'm going to be asking my colleagues to weigh in on this particular vote for RCTC, and this will be happening next year. So basically, the bill increases the tax authority that an agency has to ask the people for more money. So that's something coming. And the last thing that I'm going to say before Jen takes it off is thank you, Jen, for participating in the 2003 walk for the cancer awareness. That was they call it the Pink Walk, and I know you're going to talk about it, but thank you so much for participating in that. And we were actually not on the list, and I got the invite from Lori Stone, and I said, oh my gosh, I got to get this out to the council as fast as we can. So I sent it to Nicole, and I'm so thankful that you were able to be there, not just on behalf of Canyon Lake, but just because it's important. So with that, your turn.
Okay. Had meetings, RCA meetings this month, and our biannual SCFA meeting for Animal Friends. Earlier this month? Last month, but between the last meeting and now, city clerk and city manager and I were able to attend the women's, Riverside County Women's Leadership meeting, put on by Supervisor Spiegel, and it was a really good, inspiring event, had some great speakers, and talking all about leadership and the different forms that takes, and it was really a really good event. As Mayor Smith said, I was proud to represent the city in the Susan G. Komen walk on Sunday morning. Proudly wore my new pink Canyon Lake Fire Department T-shirt.
Nice.
On the walk. Was joined by my sister. So we were happy to represent, and city manager and her daughters were there walking. It was a really good event.
Yeah.
Really inspiring. There's some pictures that we have, really inspiring to see the survivors. And they have a whole, if you've ever attended any of these, they have a big emphasis on the survivors, and you see all the survivors that hold their signs that say, I'm a 0-year survivor, I'm a 4+ year survivor, I'm a 20+ year survivor. And it's really, really inspiring, and really inspiring to see all of the people there, and all of the people that are there and earning money to support the foundation. And also was able to represent the city in the Battle of the Businesses, which was a very, as John Grande said, very successful event for the chamber. Happy to see our favorite Canyon Lake Fire Department this morning at the library when I drove by, and all the people out there and looking at the fire truck and all of the supplies and, I guess, equipment on the,
Yeah.
on the truck.
Absolutely.
Happy to see everybody out there. And finally, for my closing statement of my comments, I would just like to say, and mention it a couple times, that how horrific the terrorist attacks have been in Israel, and just want to formally say that I stand with Israel.
Yes, 100%. Councilwoman Casey Castillo.
Thank you again for honoring me today. That was totally unexpected and very cool, and I will communicate that to the Bluebells. Dale said something today that really caught my attention, and that was one shoe doesn't fit all feet. And I think that's really a reason why I love, and I think you all love Canyon Lake so much, that we aren't like other feet, and like Cinderella require very specific shoes. So I'm excited about the state of the city, because I think that's our opportunity to showcase what we've been doing for the last year, and also kind of highlight how we've addressed and focused on some of the challenges that we faced, because we aren't like other cities. The one thing I would say is that I'm excited about Veterans Day, which will be coming up. We have a meeting for our community engagement ad hoc committee coming up soon, where we're going to finalize those details. But that will be on Saturday, actual Veterans Day, and so we look forward to having the community come out. It's going to be a very patriotic celebration of our veterans, and we're excited.
Awesome. Not to give too much of our state of the city away, but Councilwoman Castillo brought it up. You know, before, in years past, is what it's been indicated to me is the involvement that everyone here has on regional boards, and your relationships that you've gotten and built outside of this community has been so beneficial, because I believe that Canyon Lake is being part and being invited to things like what you experienced, Jen, because of the hard work of relationships outside of the walls of Canyon Lake. So I just want to applaud each of you for all your hard work. It was a task set upon, I think, Casey and myself when we first got elected in 2018, and now everyone's doing it, and it's so cool to see the entire council stepping out and working with other councils, you know, across the region. So I just want to say thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You make it so awesome to be a part of this city council. All right, with that, and please come to the State of the City. It's going to be so fun. We've got hamburgers and classic cars, right? Something different? In-N-Out burger, baby. Come on. It's just, all right, whatever. My wife's now going to text me and say, shut up. Okay, consent calendar. Do we have, I already asked for public comments, so no public comments. Anyone wanting to pull any items from the consent calendar? If not, I do need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second it. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, moving on. All right, we do have a public hearing. Okay, who's going to be presenting this one? Ruby? Okay, so public hearing, this is adoption of resolution number 2023-27, amending the Canyon Lake citywide fee schedule in relation to business license registrations program, and approving the introductions and first reading of ordinance number 179. You up? You seem very hesitant. Are we trying to
evening
do
again.
something that we should be prepared for?
No, we're not.
Okay, no
We're good.
curveballs or
No
anything?
curveballs.
Okay. I got to open the public hearing
Okay.
first, right? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor?
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing, and it is 7:56. All right.
Good
It is, the
evening
floor
once
is yours.
again. Okay, so staff is recommending the adoption of resolution number 2023-27, amending the Canyon Lake citywide fee schedule in relation to business license registration program, and approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 179, amending chapter 5.01 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code related to business license registration program. And just to give you a little bit of a background, the city of Canyon Lake requires all businesses operating in the city to have a business license, including those operating at home. A business license is issued by the city indicating permission to operate a business within the city limits. The city has continued to see an increase in business licenses registrations, up from 971 new business licenses in 2022 to 1,131 business licenses in 2023. Under the business license program, we also have associates that have to register. And an associate is defined as a professional separately licensed by the state. So these include realtors, attorneys, beauticians, barbers. And just as an example, if a realtor comes in, wants to open up a business, registers, pays the fee, and lets us know, I have an additional 5 realtors who are licensed through the state. We give them the option of either registering individually or as an associate. When you register as an associate, they're all under this one realtor, and so they operate under a reduced fee. So the process is just one process, but they have that option whether they want to go on their own or they want to fall under that same realtor. So in recent months, the city began exploring online payment options for business license processing to reduce staff demands, streamline process, and improve overall service for the business community by allowing payments online. City staff are working with our current tracking software iWork system and an online portal option to help meet those expectations. This will give businesses the option to submit their business license applications renewals online. Staff is planning to launch this portal hopefully by the end of this year. As part of the discussion, staff carefully reviewed the city's existing process and requirements for businesses, as well as concerns or complaints raised by the community. As a result, staff has identified several areas of proposed changes to the Canyon Lake Municipal Code, Chapter 5.01, Business License Registration Program. Key changes proposed in the attached ordinance number 179 include the removal of the business decals. So I believe the decals were adopted around 2018, 2019. We just aren't seeing that many business owners are purchasing this. For instance, the first year, I think they might have purchased 15. And every year it's the same thing. So it's just not cost effective. So with removing the decals, we would also remove the associate fee of $21 that comes with that. We also have, we want to include prorating newly registered business licenses to address concerns from the community based on business licenses renewing on a calendar year basis. So this would reduce the application fee to $75.50 for any licenses requested after July 1st. Another one is changing the assigned designee for the business license program to the city manager or their designee to allow for greater flexibility in staff responsibility. In addition, staff carefully reviewed the existing fees in preparation for the online portal and identified recommended changes based on concerns and proposed changes to the municipal code. Fee changes proposed as part of the attached resolution include, and again, as I mentioned, the decal, and then adding an initial prorated application fee of $75.50. Reduce the associate business license fee from $113.36 to $40 so that it can better reflect the cost of staff time to process such fee. Reduce a renewal application fee for associate business license from $39.70 to $20 to better reflect staff time and update processes as described in the above. On Wednesday, September 27, 2023, the required public hearing notice was submitted to the Friday Flyer for a publication date of September 29, 2023. Fee changes, if approved, will become effective immediately, and ordinance revisions will take effect 30 days after the final reading on November 8th.
I have questions. Do you all have questions? Okay, you go first.
I have a couple, and a couple comments. As we're working on the portal for the business licenses, one thing I have noticed, because I've tried to do it myself, on the since we have business licenses available to nonprofit organizations at no fee, can we add a specific business license or a checkbox or something? Because I don't think there is currently that identifies them as a nonprofit organization. So that would just be something as you're working to put it together.
I have our expert here, Erin, our admin assistant, and she can answer that question. She's currently working with iWork.
Okay.
With the portal.
Okay.
So
answer. Yes, they do allow us to add specific questions, check boxes. The portal will also allow the applicant to upload documents. So in the case of a nonprofit, then if they check the box, they will also be able to upload proof of their documentation.
Good. Okay. And then I have one other question specifically on the language. Hang on. We're talking about, I don't know if, I know you're not looking at it, but we're talking about the city's going to send the license renewal notice on or about December 31st of each year. And then it says the change is that the application for renewal and payment must be received on or before July 1st of the year following the expiration date. So it seems like a really long time for someone to have to pay. Is that correct? Or am I misreading that?
You're talking about the renewal?
Mm-hmm. So renewal or payment, so we've got if the license goes from January 1st to December 31st, but then we give people their 7 months to pay that?
What's happens is sometimes folks will not actually renew their license, and so they're able to renew for a certain amount of time. What we found is that sometimes they'll push that boundary, right? And they want to just pay the $39 renewal fee instead of a new initiation fee. And so what we're doing there is trying to address that so that if they do not pay by July 1st, they now have to get a new business license. It's no longer renewal. To avoid them just trying to say, oh, it's been 7 months, we haven't paid, we're going to renew July 1. For $39, now they'll have to pay a new fee. Does that kind of make sense? I'm explaining that right, Ruby? Yeah. So if you let's say you get a renewal notice in December, you can pay it late. There's a late charge for the renewal. You pay the $39 and the late fee. Some folks will just not comply, right?
Okay.
They just don't comply, they don't renew. So they wait, and if it goes past July 1st currently, they could still qualify as just a renewal. But in the change in the municipal code, now it would no longer qualify as a renewal. They'll have to pay for a new business license at the $160 fee. To avoid the
Okay.
abuse of trying to extend their timeline and get a discount.
What is the time limit before you have to pay a late fee? Thank you.
It's been a year.
Okay. It just seems like a long time.
It's like a very long time.
Wait, it's a year?
To renew?
No, she said a late fee. When
The
when
late
does it
fee.
become late by?
Oh, January 1st.
Oh, so you get the notice in December, you need to pay by January 1st.
January 1st, correct.
Otherwise you get a late.
Yeah.
Okay, then that backs me up a little bit. Then shouldn't we be sending out the notices before December 31st?
We do, we send them in November.
We send them November 1st.
Okay.
So essentially they get 2 months. Of
Okay.
notice,
Yes.
of time to do something with it.
Correct.
Okay,
So
'cause
before
it
they had
says-
that whole year, and they would just wait and renew it later on when they felt like it. And now they will no longer have that full year. They have 6 months to consider a renewal. Otherwise, now that's a new license.
Okay.
They have to start
I
over.
never knew we had that much time to pay it.
Well, now you don't.
Some people did.
Not anymore.
Is that it?
That's it.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I am excited about this proration because I've heard from a lot of members in the community, like you said, who are not happy about not being prorated. So I think that's good job listening to the community and adjusting. Thank you.
Couple questions. Online portal, awesome. Doesn't require a human being, right? As far as from staff, they can do everything online, 24/7, process it.
Correct.
And, you don't have to wait on the phone or anything like that. It's just
No.
done deal.
It gets all done.
It's all done right there. You can pay everything.
Correct.
I think that is awesome. I'm so glad that we're moving in that direction. I know it's a pain in the butt. Thank you. The other question I have is, I know we looked at, I think it was in 19, when we looked at the decals for businesses. Was there ever a conversation of giving a decal per business license from the get-go? Here's your
And-
business license, here's your decal,
Yeah.
welcome to Canyon Lake.
And I was never part of that conversation just because I just took over the business license department, so I'm not sure if that conversation did take place at the time.
So I think it's one of two things, right? The decal doesn't get you into the gate. The decal
Correct.
identifies you as a business something, right?
Correct.
So we're having a lot of issues with, the POA in regards to citing vehicles because A, they didn't put their pass properly, because their pass is expired and they do landscaping or they're doing house cleaning or whatnot. Has there been any issues, and I know I already didn't answer this question because the code enforcement is not talking to Allied Security that I'm aware of in detail, but the residents are telling me that, a lot of these folks are business operators who are getting dinged for parking and whatnot for, as far as, not providing the pass that's there. Do you think that decal would help prevent some of that hesitation?
No, and that's part of the confusion and why we want to also remove it, just because people are under the assumption that this decal
That
allows
gets you
you
out
to
of
go in,
jail
and
sort of thing.
it just
Yeah.
doesn't. It has nothing to do with access, and we're very clear on that when they initially come in. But I know that still continues to be an issue.
Yeah, because the reverse side of it is they have this decal and they think they're good to go, but the POA is not looking at that, right? Allied Security is not
Right.
looking at that decal, right?
No.
Okay, so I think, that makes sense. And you said there's only 18 that are actually being asked?
Yeah, that we're not issuing a lot of them.
Right, okay. The other question I have is have we looked at, what an automated renewal process would look like?
We have not looked into that.
No, then this is an interesting idea that I think the mayor and I discussed, and this would be an auto pay option. So
Correct.
maybe where annually it just automatically renews and the payment comes out, and basically the business owner would have to let us know. if the
So,
business was no
being a business owner, I think, a lot of us don't have enough time to do some of the things that are needed of us, right? But if I'm incentivized by the city to sign up for an automatic renewal process, and maybe I get a 3% discount or whatever that is, we just eliminated 1 million miles of paperwork, right? That person's on auto until we ding their credit card and it got stolen and now it changed and we got to go through that whole thing. But for the most part, we're trying to be as compliant as we can in regards to make it easy for our business owners. So now they come down, they go through the hassle of doing the paperwork, they do it right. And that's part of it too, right? Going online and making sure that everything's done right. And then they get the option to sign up for auto renewal. And it's going to be their job, obviously, to cancel that as well, because if they're no longer a business in 2026, we're still going to ding them for that unless they know otherwise. But I think that helps us be proactive, and that way we don't have to worry about some of the games that are being played in regards to extending, the lifelong of that late penalty fee too. I'm not asking for it tonight. It's a discussion. I think we're moving in the right direction in regards to our online portal. I think I would like to see us move to a selection of where we could do auto renewal, and then it's a one and done for our business owners.
And we can definitely look into that. Since we're working on the portal currently, we can ask all those questions.
Okay. That's it for me. Does anyone else have any comments, questions?
Just to follow up, we send letters apparently. I'm wondering if emails would be sufficient instead of letters. It'd be nice to send them an email with a link so they get the email and to check on your address, to verify your phone number, to make the payment if you're not on auto pay, rather than this letter. You get the letter, you shove it somewhere till you get to your computer. As you say, it's a lot of work. However, if you get an email, you click the hyperlink, and it's a 3-minute thing, and less likely to get forgotten. So just an idea.
Yeah, and that's an option. The only problem is a lot of people don't check their emails or looks. I think, maybe even having both would help that out.
Our processor on this is iWorks, right?
Right.
Mike, do you know if they have a text messaging service? Okay. Because Dale's 100%, sorry, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you're 100% right. No one's, they're not. I'm sorry. We're finding out in the world of communication that text messaging is a must now. It's just what's happening. I know that government is starting to use it for special alerts, and they're starting to use it for emergencies. I know that if a business owner is applying with the city for a business license, and they're giving us permission to contact them via cell phone / text messages, that would be a direct way to handle any issues that we have if we did do a renewal and their payment bounced, or if we have issues with them, we can have direct communication. I don't know if iWorks would allow for that portal to exist, but I think that would be a really good way of getting more folks engaged faster.
And we can look into that as well.
Yeah.
And some of us may require us to look at our provider at some
Right.
point. We are currently in a 3-year agreement with iWork, but as we look to the future, we can definitely make a list of this so that we look for solutions that do allow us to do some of these things, if they're not able to now.
Councilmember Terry, did you have anything? Okay, the only other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know I've had conversations with our city manager on this, but I think I would like us to look at our residential rental program. I know that we currently have it underneath the business licensing. I think it's weird that a landlord has 12 business licenses when they own all the same properties. I know, me being one, it's weird to get 5 different business licenses, but I think when we created the program, it made complete sense. And it's been very successful, in my opinion. I know that the Mayor Pro Tem and myself have been contacted by several landlords in the community asking us to have the conversation. So I would like, us to kind of maybe be prepared to have that at the next council meeting next month, if that's possible, or maybe the one after that.
Yeah, December or January would probably be better. I know we have weed abatement ordinance also that we're looking at, but we'll definitely bring that back to the council and
Okay.
have started conversations.
That's all I got.
I do have a question, maybe a clarification. It reads, added an exemption for small and large family homes, daycare businesses, as required by recent legislation. Is that they are they're not paying for a license?
They don't have to get a business license through
They don't
this.
have-
They're exempt. Yeah, they are exempt. And that was a bill, it was a Senate Bill 234.
That is correct. So with that exemption, they don't even need to come to the city to say, I'm running a daycare?
Correct. It's all through the state.
So, Councilmember, that business activity is now considered a residential use under state law, not requiring land use entitlements, business regulations, anything at the city level.
Thank you.
They don't want us stopping daycares.
But the comment, it's not a freelance thing where they don't have to do any paper. The registration, all that is done through the state, and the cities are out of the loop. It's not that they're not registered with somebody who's overseeing them.
And not paying any fees or taxes to the city either. Yes.
So, not that, well, now I'm fascinated. So, Canyon Lake, nice big gate around the community. We have so many daycares here. Their enforcing agency is the state. The city has nothing to do with it, correct?
So again, they took away local land use and regulatory controls and the requirement to submit for a business license. If there were other things that the city council was particularly interested in, we can look at how those would intersect with the changes in state law. My expectation, just based on how most state agencies operate, is there's probably relatively little actual on the ground regulation going on.
And I can add that the county has taken on this initiative as well in regards to daycare and childcare centers, not just residential. So they have a whole program. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. I'm looking at the team to see if they can remember, but I have some notes. I'm happy to share that with all of you. I did meet with them. So there is some effort. It's intended to try to increase daycare activity and opportunities in our communities so people can get to work.
I love it. I mean, I think that's so important, and I'm glad to hear that there's nothing, we don't want to get, into that mess, so.
One other thing, they are regulated by the Department of Social Services, so they do have to go through pretty extensive licensing and
Insurance and
fees
everything.
through the state.
Okay.
Correct.
And the county is encouraging cities now to actually invest in these child care centers or encourage developers to include them into their developments and set aside. So they actually have like development plans that can be worked into developments so that they're actually being built and considered kind of a community benefit with a development agreement.
Awesome. Any more questions to staff by the council? Going once, going twice? No. All right. Do we have any proponents? Opponents? All right. No response by proponents. All right. Public hearing is now closed at 8:16. Discussion by city council. If there is no discussion, I do need a motion and a second. This is to adopt resolution
Before you do,
2000. But
Mayor.
before I do,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. There was one thing that we noticed over here. We didn't really look at the late fees, but based on the conversation, we did note that one of the late fees states 30 to 60 days, it's one amount, 60 to 90 days, it's a different amount. It really should just say 60 plus. So since we're making the change anyways, we'd love to take the opportunity to alter that line to state 60 days or more.
Mr. City Attorney?
That's number 2.2 on page 36 of the backup. I think it's pretty clear that after 60 days, it's 2 times the fee, but we don't want the ambiguity to exist where somebody says, well, I'm on the 91st day, so I don't have to pay the penalty.
Right.
We want to discourage people from gaming the system. So that one should be amended from 60 to 90 days to simply say 60 or more days late.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's easy. Okay, with those changes and recommendations by the council that has been made, I do need a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2023-27.
I'll make a motion.
All right, can I get a roll call vote, please?
You can, and I would also like to read the ordinance title into the record, Mayor.
Please do.
So this is ordinance number 236, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, repealing and readopting Chapter 5.01 regarding business licenses to update provisions and address mobile vendors and enforcement. And with that,
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry? Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Perfect. Moving on, business item number 5, Mr. Blankenship, this one is yours. This is an update regarding economic development projects within our community. How are you, my friend?
Good, how about you?
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Still sound a little raspy, but I'm surviving. Honorable
Good.
Mayor, members of the council, staff, it's nice to be here tonight.
Thanks for coming.
Nice drive down here. Beautiful day, a little bit of rain. Perfect day.
Nice.
We should package it up and sell it to all the prospective businesses to do business here.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to give a report this evening. I'm going to hit on about 5 or 6 items that we're working on. And if at the end you folks want to ask any questions, I'm open to all the questions you want to ask. No particular order. We have been working on a level of service analysis for unincorporated areas to the north of us, and we're very close to wrapping that up. So kind of the remaining steps with that is to meet with our sheriff department, our police chief in our city, as well as our station commander, and finalize some numbers. Recently just got an email that gave some further color, if you will, to some of the numbers that were being considered. So I think we're very close to being able to wrap that up and understand that if we were to annex areas to the north of us, what would the cost of service be to provide service in those areas at the same level that is currently, that the folks are currently enjoying now. In addition to that, we own a building at 31540 and 31542 Railroad Canyon. This summer we had several projects that occurred there, one of which was painting of the inside, new carpeting. We did some ADA improvements in the hallway that created kind of a seamless flow between the hallway to the back hallway. We did energy efficient lighting in there. We did new signage in there. We did electrical improvements. And in addition to that, we did improvements to the HVAC system. And we're pretty much now modernized with our HVAC system in that building. Kind of the next steps for that building are to remodel again the interior bathrooms, because those are the bathrooms most used. As you know, there's a church that operates in there. There's a school that operates. There are several businesses. Those bathrooms get a tremendous amount of use. They need to be sprucing up and brought up to a higher standard. So we're right now out to bid with a contractor looking at what those numbers will be. In addition to that, we're doing an analysis of the utility costs there, the common usage area, as well as what is the market rate, the current market rate in the center. And then that will give us an opportunity at some point in the near future to reanalyze the leases that are over there. In addition to that, we've talked for, I hate to say it, many years, or at least it seems like it's been many years, about the BLM property. We have a new opportunity that's come to us. As you know, in the past, we've been working with our congressman. We've been working with a potential development partner, and we were recently contacted by BLM, by their realty specialist, who indicated that there's kind of a new charge within the BLM to maybe look at moving parcels off the BLM record, if you will, and create economic opportunities and recreational opportunities. They have a couple different programs, and some of these programs have been around almost as long as 100 years, believe it or not. So there's the Recreation and Public Purposes Act, and there's the Federal Land Transaction Facilitation Act. The Recreation and Public Purposes Act was first signed into law in 1926. It was modernized in 1954, and is an opportunity through the BLM to work with qualified nonprofits and municipalities and government agencies to create land swaps for economic opportunity. That would be a program that we may be eligible for. And then in addition to that, they have another program called the Federal Lands Transaction Facilitation Act, and that was created in 2000, re-upped in 2018 in perpetuity, so they don't have to go back and touch that again. And that creates a bank for when properties are exchanged, properties are sold, that there's a fund that they can go into. The sources of those funds will be used for future acquisitions for high-value land. And in the BLM, world, high-value land is large parcels over 640 acres that have, value of environmental value or potential recreation value. So where we are with the BLM on this, they were meeting with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We don't know the results of that meeting. There is the possibility that there could be a conflict with one of the two parcels. So as you know, there's the 640-acre parcel that's divided by what becomes the river, essentially the lake. And then there's the 160-acre parcel, which is Jump Lagoon, which we have been probably most focused on. I think from our standpoint, the 640-acre parcel, if it ever became available to us, would be a great place for recreation. 160-acre parcel is kind of what we've talked about previously. Maybe some housing opportunities, maybe a boutique hotel, maybe some select retail opportunities. Depending on what the market is, certainly would drive that. At this point, the reason why the BLM has to meet with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is there's a Stevens kangaroo rat habitat that is on a portion or maybe all of the 640 acres, and that could become a problem or maybe a problem. So there's that issue, as well as the current MSHCP program. When the MSHCP was created, all the public lands were lumped into the program. So there's 500,000 acres of habitat in the MSHCP. 350,000 of it are public lands that were put in it, which means all the BLM lands. So there is a conversation going on between the BLM, what and how that could be pulled out, if it can be pulled out. So that's what we're waiting for, to see if that's an opportunity for us. But I think it's exciting because when we first started dealing with the BLM, we started out at like 18 on their list for a land swap. Then we dropped down to 21, and then they told me you'd be better off getting the congressman to force us to do a land swap through legislation. So it had come to that. So that's where we are with BLM. We're continuing to stay on them. And then kind of next steps would be to put the congressman's office together with BLM if it looks like a land swap could happen, so that he could kind of help push them along and keep them focused, as well as creating a partnership between the Riverside Conservation Authority, or MSHCP, and BLM. Those two relationships surprisingly have not occurred, and this discussion has not happened with them. So that's where we are with BLM. In addition to that, as we have previously talked about, and we've gone through quite a bit of analysis, we've looked at annexation, we looked at sphere of influence to unincorporated areas to our north. We're certainly going through that process right now. We've been in constant discussions with LAFCO. They understand the city's intentions. I think we're very close to probably formalizing something with LAFCO saying this is the direction we're going. And then I think we need to circle back. We need to have a meeting with our MAC. We need to meet with our county supervisor again. We need to probably let our neighbor know in writing our intentions, and then the process will continue through LAFCO. So that's where we are. And then in addition, as I mentioned, we've been working on our level of service study. That is one of the things that we need to do for part of our LAFCO process. And then kind of finally, marketing of the town center and analysis of our opportunities here. What I envision occurring in the months ahead is that we will meet with a series of developers, share with them our plan over there, test their interest, and listen to what they feel are our options. As we all know, I don't need to point out the constraints over there. I think we all know what they are. But I think with some good creative minds in the room and bringing in also a market analysis expert to give us kind of some numbers on what we can do and ideas. So between the market analysis expert, between a series of developers, I think that information that we'll get and glean from those sources will allow us to put a strategy together to move forward on what we do with this and how this plays into our future as a city. So that's my report for this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you and the team, and it's been a great few years that I've had that opportunity and appreciate it, and I enjoy working with all of you. So if there's any questions, I'm here for you, and please fire away.
Any questions? I'll kick it off unless, okay. I was talking to our city manager the other day, and right now we have 3 vacant locations essentially within the buildings that we own, 3 different spots that are being unused right now. I think, the idea early on was, obviously, Bill, you've been part of a lot of the economic developments when it comes to real estate capture and owning. And the idea was to create revenue to the city in a sense of a landlord and operating. You've done that with, one of the biggest headaches that we have. I think moving forward, it's important since we are looking at doing a different city hall, and the timeline's probably going to be a little bit longer. I think we do need to move forward the best we can to advertise those places. I know Councilwoman Casey Castillo and myself, we just had this conversation. We have business owners that are coming to us regularly looking for places to operate in the town center because there's no space available. Currently, the city has 3 locations that are not being used, that are completely vacant, that are prime for businesses. I think we need to get on it and do the best we can to try to advertise that we have those spaces available, unless my colleagues have any objections on it. But it sounds as though we're not going to be utilizing that space anytime at all. So I would recommend that we move forward with, a 30-day lease and let the tenants know, hey, look, we have plans for these spaces down the road. You will be entering into a month-to-month lease. But we are missing out on what I calculate between $4,000 and $5,000 in revenue on those 3 locations that I think will maximize the efforts of what we achieved to try to do when we bought those properties to begin with. So I think that's one thing that we really need to work towards because, we have it. We have those assets and we have businesses that are reaching out to us and asking to view it. In fact, we got someone right now in the audience that was asking too, the president of the chamber, because he's got folks that got businesses that need places to work out of, right?
Well, that might be the first place to, put a listing together.
Oh, 100%.
With them because I know we've been trying to do kind of an informal market analysis, and it's hard to do a market analysis when there's nothing available.
Right.
We've always known historically that, these facilities or these, buildings rent anywhere from below $1 and upwards of $2, based obviously on conditions. So, but that's a wide range.
Yep.
And so we've worked really hard to get our one building up to where, it's in a place where we can revisit those leases. And I think you and I should probably talk about, what is the timeline that they might be available? Where are those, how much square feet are we talking? I think, maybe partnering with the chamber and maybe talking to one of our local realtors. I know there's been a reach out to do that as well, would be the first steps.
Yeah, and what we're finding out, and Councilwoman Casey Castillo was with me this morning when we did coffee with the mayor, we had one of our business owners that was actually telling us the price point, and so what we're seeing is you have folks that are super grandfathered in. I mean, we're talking 10, 15 years, don't even talk to their landlords, but now what we're seeing is new businesses, the rent is insane. I mean, not that we're trying to jouse our businesses, but it's such a disconnect in this community. And I think from the city standpoint, we should really be in conversation, not with just the chamber, but the businesses as a whole, to find out what they're hearing, what their needs and wants are, what other rents are going for. Because when you start talking to the businesses, you're going to find out it is all up and down. It's all over the map. And that's the hard part with the town center, right? So you
It's kind of isolated.
it's isolated. You can't just say, oh, this is the medium rent, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It's easier when you look at standalone residential homes in Canyon Lake, but when you look at the business side of it, it's very difficult. But I think that's easy. I mean, that's something that can happen tomorrow because of the type of folks. And I know, our president's in the audience right now, and he has probably 5 people in his brain right now who've been begging for locations to work at the town center, to either get out of their office at home or to come to Canyon Lake. It is a prime spot, and we have 3 of them, and we need to let the world know about it. So I think you got yourself a partner behind you.
I think you're 100% right. I think people want to get out of their house.
Yeah. COVID's over.
Kids are driving them crazy. It's time to go have a workplace
Yeah.
and get out of the house. And some people just like to not work at home.
Yeah.
But I get it. I think there's a lot of folks who live in this community who don't want to drive very far, don't want to go down to Menifee and have an office when they potentially could have something here. I know our contractor who we ended up renting space to, or ended up coming to an agreement with, he wanted that. He wanted to get out of the house, and he wanted a place, and he was desperate to find a place.
Yeah.
And he's happy as can be, and did great TIs in the office there. And if you ever have an opportunity to walk into his office, you'll see that what he has created in there really is a model for what our other tenants probably should ultimately do when we re-up their leases.
Yeah.
But all that's part of the negotiation.
Exactly.
So, any other questions?
Any other questions from anyone?
No, thank you for your comments. Those are good.
No, nothing.
No, I'm encouraged. I'm a lot more encouraged than I was a year ago, and I think that's a positive. It's no secret my vision for the town center is completely different than what we're experiencing now. I think it is an underused. I just see that
Incredible.
town center one day being the gym of our valley, and it has such great potential. But it's a difficult battle, and I think some of the suggestions to both work externally, in other words, with developers, as well as internally with the current ownerships, and working together to see what we can do. And I know we're having those discussions, and they're forming, and I look forward to that in the future.
Councilmember Terry and Welty, thank you for your leadership in that area.
Yeah, and I keep looking at these guys because they serve on our economic committee, and I appreciate all the hard work that they're doing with you, Bill, and obviously our city manager. The only other suggestion, that I would have, and I talked a little bit about this with Nicole just today, this morning it's weird, we do these coffees, and Casey started this thing a couple years ago, and so I've continued it the last couple years, and the same people show up. Every now and then you get a couple of different people, but the conversations are always so unique, and I think what is missing is this relationship with not just the Merchants Association, but with our businesses as a whole. And no discredit to the chamber because they do a phenomenal job, but I think there's opportunities for the city to listen and to adapt and to make changes and to help with. So I would encourage my colleagues, if they find interest in this idea, to do a quarterly, meeting with our business community. Maybe people will show up, maybe not. Our president's had some great successes doing some business roundtable stuff and getting people involved. I think an official meeting that allowed business owners to come forward and just chew us out, let us know what they're dealing with, the issues that they're having, the problems that they're having, whether it's code enforcement, whether it's rules and regs, whether it's public safety. I think giving our business community, since we are such a tight-knit group, the opportunity to come forward and just brainstorm together. And if that's something that the two of you guys want to champion and put it on the calendar, I think you would get a good response.
I think there's some, go ahead.
I'll just give you a minute. You sound, it all sounds very simple, like we went ahead, but as we know, if you've been involved in this, it's extremely complex, and we push and push, and we have to go through the federal government, the state government, the county government, and it's a hell of a journey, and the persistence and what we're going through is just amazing. Bill, thank you for going on the journey with us. So I think I'm just glad you're here, because now everyone gets to hear the pieces of the story that we've been looking at for a long time. So appreciate that.
There's more, but I only have so much.
Yeah, you got another hour and a half. Well,
no, I'm standing between you all going home.
But I appreciate it's just not easy, and we're looking for every way to work and get economic development going. We're a small city. We don't have these broad stretches of flat land like our neighbors do. So we have to work very creatively, and we have to be incredibly persistent. And I appreciate Nicole and Mark as assistants in this journey, and I want to say thank you.
I'll say this and I'll shut up, but what I'm finding out the more and more I do this job, economic developments is not always about big ideas. It's not always about big projects and big opportunities. It's about helping those that need it. We have a business owner in our community who's getting, I won't say harassed, but dealing with issues, just simple conducting business. If we can protect that business owner and help him along the way, that's economic development. That in itself is doing it, and that's what it's about. It shouldn't be just about BLM swaps and big growth and doing, mixed use. That's not what it's all about. Here in Canyon Lake, it's different, right? And that's why I would really encourage our economics, committee to look at the possibility of partnering with doing a real workshop with our businesses, so we give them the platform to complain about the issues and concerns they have, because right now they're not talking, and when I ask more and more questions, I'm getting more and more answers of some of the things that I know that we can help out with. So that's what I'm projecting, in the upcoming years. Is it's important that we keep these big projects that you're working on, Bill, moving forward, but there's a lot of little stuff like filling our vacancies that can help the city. I'm done. Any other questions or comments? Councilwoman Casey-Castillo, Jennifer Dane?
Question. I have a question because I don't, obviously I don't know. That's why I'm asking. As part of the scope of what you do with the city, working specifically within the town center, working with the Merchants Association on issues, or is that something that you don't do?
That's probably something I don't do. I have
Okay.
attended one meeting, and I think that's something that we should probably get more involved in the future. And I think to what Mayor Smith said about getting the businesses together, and maybe there was an opportunity and some synergy of a partnership between the chamber and the city to bring that, because as you were talking, I'm sitting here thinking, that's how we find out what people's intentions are.
Yeah.
If you get them in a room and you start to get to know them, they start learning what our intentions are, what our big audacious ideas are, and they start, their wheels start turning, and then we learn, who might be willing to sell in the future, who might be willing to go along for a journey to maybe be part of a partnership, whatever that partnership may look like. And so, no, traditionally I have not been involved with them, but I do think that's something that's important, that we need to be more involved, because it's a, yeah, God, I don't know how to explain it. It's a little convoluted the way this place is constituted.
It's a nightmare.
And we all hear different anecdotal stories about couldn't get this done, or I wanted to open this and I can't do it because whatever reason, there's no space, it's not approved. And it seems that we have a big opportunity within the business community and within the redevelopment of the town center, even before the redevelopment ever starts, to work together And I don't know how that relationship gets developed, but that may be something, and maybe we can look at the scope of services and see if that's maybe something where we can have you focus as well, if that's something that we think that would help our business community.
You know, we laugh because, he said that he's attended once, but they really only meet once a year. It is the weirdest merchants association that I think I've witnessed or been a part of. I know that our city manager is meeting with them next month, but it is very difficult to get them together. It's very difficult to get them to do projects. It's the annual meeting. It's not even, anyways, we could go on for days, but it is so important that we at least try. Councilwoman Casey Castillo at our coffee this morning mentioned that we should definitely be involved because we are a stakeholder. We do hold parcels here. We should have a voice at the table. I know that when we brought forward something that was near and dear to my heart, which was a charging station that we were going to have Edison fully fund and AQMD, and we tried to bring that forward to the Merchants Association, and they shot it down because they didn't like where it was at, and we lost that boat. And now the state's going to require us to do it, and now we're going to have to use real money to pay for it. So it's been a difficult task, and I think that's a good one. And so I think that the city manager's all on board on that too, and she wants to see if we can do something there because it needs to be changed. It's becoming very difficult for our businesses.
Agree, and I think that's a place where we need to focus, and I think, I would like to think that they're invested in our businesses as well, and I know that needs to be driven from another area, but I think we can encourage the conversation and maybe a better conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Such a
that's
good
something
point.
we've been talking about is how do we identify, you can look at cities like Temecula and what they've done in their downtown. There's other places. We've looked at Anaheim. Councilmember Terry and I attended a session in the League of California Cities that talked about Anaheim and how they completely rehauled Beach Boulevard, right? Which we don't have the same opportunities necessarily, but their story started more than 20 years ago. So we know this is a long journey, and I think there's many pieces to it, but it really starts with listening, as you've mentioned, having those conversations and hearing from the property owners and the current business owners, because they're two different things, right? And how do we start just taking those baby steps and having those conversations? But more importantly, as you all have shared, demonstrate that the city is a stakeholder. We recognize our importance and our role in this, and that we're here to support them as property owners and business owners.
I'm encouraged, and Councilwoman Casey Castillo, you remember this, during COVID, her and I did an initiative to try to do the first ever all-business Zoom meeting. I remember because I was in Lake Havasu when I did it, and we had like 80 heads on the screen. We didn't know what we were doing, but it was the idea that all these businesses came together because the fear of the unknown of what this COVID thing was going to do and what their local agency, their local government, their municipality was going to guide them through this troubling thing, and we let them conduct the meeting. They led us. They told us what their needs and their wants was. And I do believe that this is a time where we can give them the opportunity as business owners to come forward and say, how can we help you? Because we claim to be very business active, and we claim to be, cut the red tape. So I think we need to start doing that. And we need to be serious about what we're saying up here on this dais. And I think if we give opportunities, just like Mark Terry did in that the social media training, those type of things, people will show up. People will be a part of it. So I think it's really good insight. Councilwoman Casey Castillo, do you have anything?
Okay. Hi. I think my feeling's a little different than Mark's. Mark is energized in what's the future is looking like. My concern is we've been doing this for a while, and in my business, I need to see work product or some kind of demonstrative, and my concern is I don't see it. So help me understand what is coming that is tangible.
Well, I think I outlined in the report this evening what we're working on and the next steps. I think one of the things that we started from the very beginning is that the city needed to be a stakeholder in the town center here. We acquired multiple buildings in the town center. We're managing them. One was very challenging.
Yeah.
Needed a lot of work, and there's been a tremendous amount of work that's gone into that. think we're ready to go to the next steps of now redoing everybody's lease and those sorts of things. I think those are all very tangible things that we've done is, we've positioned ourselves to now kind of start hopefully driving this and being a real stakeholder in the town center. Big things like the BLM, it's a lot of steps. And the challenges are great. The challenges are great in the town center. You've got a parking lot that's owned by the Merchants Association. You've got 46 separate owners here. I'm not going to candy coat that there's not great challenges here. Finding a development partner. We had a development partner who was very excited at one time, but, there's just too many steps for him to stay engaged. He's got other deals to do. Now we got to go start marketing, the town center and what we're doing here. I think there's great opportunity in talking about how bringing the businesses together. I think we're also looking and we're moving proactively towards, maybe annexation or sphere of influence to unincorporated areas. So I think those are all tangible, but those are not tomorrow's things, as I think everybody recognizes. If we were manufacturing something, it would be, I think, pretty easy to say, this is our progress. If you're even getting a policy adopted at a local government agency, I've done a lot of that. I think there's a process to get that done. What we're trying to do is, and I think it's recognized and was said here tonight, we're a very unique place. We don't have large swaths of land. We don't have opportunities for subdivisions. Every house that gets built in here is essentially a custom home. So those would be my explanations, but I do think there's been progress. And would I like to have seen it go faster? Absolutely. I never anticipated BLM would tell us we're 18 on the list or 21 on the list. Now we need to go work with Congressman Calvert, get legislation. You need to have land. We got to go find land to swap it before we can do legislation. We negotiate with a landowner. He wants too much money. The developer was willing to pay it, but then the landowner wouldn't cooperate on terms of going into a development agreement or a purchase agreement, with the developer. He wanted them to go hard with their money in 6 months. He goes, that was a 2-year process to get legislation done. I'm not going to guarantee millions of dollars. And by the way, I'm guaranteeing you a deal that's probably worth 6 times what the land should be worth because there's lack of access or lack of utilities. But I'm doing it only because I have a future plan. So we've gone through all these steps, and like I said, I could stand up here for a really long time and talk about all the steps that we've gone through. And it's been a journey, and we've had to go down those steps to figure out what is our next step. So I wish I had more progress for you. I'd love to have had it, but I do think we have had progress. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I don't know if you did either, to be honest. And simply because, and I'm not discounting the work that you have done. I know that our building is in much better shape. I know that, we've spent a lot of money to get it into that shape, and I know you've had those interactions with the tenants and so forth. I think maybe my concern is just, I'm not really sure what the scope of work all entails, right? When you're telling me there's been a bunch of progress, I don't see kind of like the landmarks that I'm able to, maybe I'm more visual, but what I see is just continuing work, but I don't know, maybe I'm more goal oriented where I'm like, this is the finish line and this is where we're getting to. I don't know, maybe I need more measuring sticks along the way, because I understand what you're saying. We've done this and this and this, but I don't even know, other than these updates, what this and this and this is. Just being honest.
Okay. I'm not sure.
I'd
I'd be more than happy to maybe sit down, have a lengthy meeting, and we can talk about everything, if that would help. I can take you back from the beginning of the journey and kind of what the original goals were and what we've accomplished and where we are today and why where we are today.
Yeah, I think that would help me.
I don't think I can accomplish it at the podium.
And I think this is a great discussion, because this hour and a half that we kind of need is kind of what we need for you to understand everything that's gone through, and how little control we have, but what efforts we've taken with the control we do have, it has been step by step. And it is a long journey, but it would take a fair amount of time for us all to understand. Maybe we need to take the time and do it.
No, and I'll say this, when we started the economic development ideas, it was Larry Green and myself. And when I became mayor last year, I wanted to make it a point to remove myself from that and put Dale and Terry on that, because it was so overwhelming of just the knowledge that was needed to understand where we're at. And because of the Brown Act, we're very limited on what we can and can't do in communication with each other. And the exposure that these gentlemen have gotten over the last 6 or 7 months through conversations that I've had with them individually, Mr. City Attorney, I can see that it's very complex and there's a lot of moving layers there. And I think my colleagues to the right of me are frustrated because they don't have that intellect that I've been able to share with you and Larry Green as well, and now that they're getting up to speed on. So I think it would be important for us to schedule something, an update of more detail of where we're headed and where we're going, and put together some, tangible goals that we're achieving, because the big stuff that you've talked about, they're long play things, but the stuff that I mentioned this evening, I think are short-term plays that we can get real resolution on. But I think my colleagues are just starving for information, at least that's what I'm hearing for tonight.
Well, and to be fair, we're on the finance committee.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak for you, but I see invoices, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but what I'm saying is, maybe you're right, because there is a disconnect in what is going on. Obviously, there's ad hoc committees for that reason. So
I think one of the things I hear everyone saying today is to have some type of more detailed scope of work. There was a lot of ideas discussed today. We've talked a little bit about strategic planning just in general for the city. And I think one of the things that Bill and I can go back and look at is what is that more detailed scope of work? What are the items and deliverables that we can put in place based on some of the feedback we heard tonight, with Bill's assistance and or other ways of doing that for the city. So I think that's something that we can look at, and then that creates, I think, a little bit more of what you're saying. What is the expectation? Maybe some shorter term baby steps that we can take while we're waiting on these larger projects. They're going to take a little bit of time.
That would be very helpful for me.
Go ahead, Mr. Terry.
Couple things. I know John Grande has a great enthusiasm for all of our business owners. He and I have had an opportunity to actually, I think we have 2/3, maybe, personally visited 2/3 of the businesses in the town center. I would entirely agree that we need to keep the momentum going that we had with our social media panel. And I would totally agree with the mayor that we need to bring them in and really have that discussion on what their wants and needs are. It's, as we go individually, you hear a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but there's a lot of hesitancy because a city councilman just walked into my,
What are they gonna find?
business, and
What are they gonna regulate?
I think things are great.
That's good.
So,
Leave me alone.
I think anything that we can do to encourage their input, I entirely agree that we need to, there needs to be some reforms with our merchant association. Once a year isn't cutting it, and it gives them the ability to, and you and I have had a couple discussions on this, gives them the ability to hide and come out one time a year, and we definitely need to have productive, cooperative discussions with our merchant association. And Council Member Castillo, I am enthusiastic, but I do think that we need better accountability in regards to where we're at and where we're going and what that next step is. And I know that you and I have talked about that personally, and if there's anything that we can do, personally, I need to start putting together a binder of each one of these, and so that I can look in that binder and know exactly where we're at, what the next step is, any financial ramifications that may come of that. And I think as we move forward, we need to do a better job at having that information so that not only I and people in our ad hoc committee, but the entire council and community know exactly where we're at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have a comment for kind of John Grande, is we just want to encourage you to be an advocate for the businesses with the cities. We're in the city business, sometimes we don't see the business as well as we should. I just want to encourage your Chamber of Commerce that if you feel we're not serving your businesses, feel free to bang on the mayor's door, my door, city manager's door. Feel like you have an open door with all of us to communicate for your businesses. That's my encouragement.
And I know sometimes this is redundant for you, but that's okay. You've been on the journey for a very long period of time. I think one of the discussions that, and you've been very good with me in your input and allowing me to ask questions. Sometimes it's just difficult to kind of pick up and move forward, and your assistance and, hey, this is where we've been, but more importantly, this is where we're at today, and we're at step 75, and we're moving on to 76, and knowing exactly what 76 is, and maybe even a little time frame on how long we anticipate that, and then we can kind of follow along and know our progress.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Any questions? Everyone else good? Any
Yep.
comments? Okay.
Together.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We are on business item 6. This is the chief. Going to talk about an engine in the future. What's that? And perfect timing. Did you time that?
We call it music. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city staff, city council, Jeff Lieutenant, your fire chief. Why purchase a fire engine? We just bought one a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So let me try to give you some background. Our current reserve fire engine was paid for as part of our contract with Riverside County CAL FIRE. So as part of the quarterly payments we made to them, there was money that went towards the fire engine. So in January of 2022, when we took over the fire department and started our own fire department, they gave us that fire engine. That fire engine is a 2006 Meal. It's a Type 1 structural fire engine, and it previously, when it was Riverside County CAL FIRE, served the city of Canyon Lake. The fire engine is 17 years old today, so that's fairly old. It has over 135,000 miles on it. I'm sure many of us don't have cars, except maybe our classic cars, that are that old or have that many miles on it that's required to perform emergency services. Since the fire department started back in January of 2022, we spent $35,000 in maintenance costs. And then today, I got the invoice for the maintenance we had on it done last week, and that was another $3,000. We're spending a lot of money keeping the fire engine serviceable and safe for our firefighters. And as the engine gets older, it's more difficult to find the parts to keep the engine in service. Our current frontline engine was ordered in February 2021 through Pierce Manufacturing. The department took delivery of the fire engine in 2022 of January. The engine was a lease purchase, so we have a 10-year lease on it. The original cost was $719,660. The annual lease payment is $84,141. We have made 2 payments on that, and we have 8 more payments to go. The engine has served the department very well. It's the talk of the community. I've never had so many comments on the aesthetic look of a fire engine, but the community loves that fire engine.
I will say real quick, Councilmember Bob McGee in Lake Elsinore, he saw it at the State of the City in Wildemar, and I won't use the language that he used, but it started with a B, and he said that's the B word, ride. That's amazing. So you're right. It's even outside of the gates, Chief, people are saying stuff about the Black Pearl.
It is a beautiful and reliable and trustworthy fire engine.
Yeah.
We're currently averaging about 10,000 miles a year on the fire engine. So, why do we need an additional engine? Our current frontline engine was ordered through Pierce Manufacturing. While there is no set standard for apparatus replacement, NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, states that each apparatus should be evaluated independently and determine when it needs to be replaced. In a large metropolitan area, you might only get 5 years frontline service because they're running so much. But NFPA also states that no engine should ever be over 25 years old. At that time, from safety changes that occur over the life of the fire engine, it's time to update for the safety of your firefighters. Strangely enough, the current delivery time for fire engines is anywhere between 2 to 4 years. It's amazing how the industry changed. When we ordered our fire engine in 21, we got it in about 11 months, and now, a couple of years later, it's taking 2 to 4 years. We reached out to a couple of our neighboring communities to see what they're doing and if they're hearing the same thing. Riverside City just ordered some engines. That's taking them 2 years, and it's costing them $1.2 million. What's going on? There's a lot of things going on. COVID, we're still feeling the effects of that in the industry. They're having staffing issues. Pierce Manufacturing, where we ordered our engine, is down 300 to 400 employees. They just can't produce the number that they were producing before. ARPA money. People got a lot of ARPA money and they're ordering fire engines. Normally, about 6,000 fire engines are purchased annually throughout the United States, and they're producing they're taking orders for up to 12 to 15,000 now. So we're getting in line with everybody else. And we're still seeing supply chain issues because those people that supply the equipment that they build the engines with are feeling the same problems where they're at. So that's why it's taking so long. We also, working with the city manager and the finance director, developed an apparatus replacement schedule. We figured that apparatus should be in service for 10 years frontline. Apparatus should be in service for 5 years for reserve service. Our patrol should be in service for 15 years. And then it can go into reserve status. Why longer? Because it's not used quite as hard or as often as the other engine. Our command vehicles, we're looking at a 15-year lifespan for those. Our support vehicles, a 17-year lifespan for those. And additionally, I'd like to point out that working on this vehicle replacement schedule and funding it, we hope to pay cash for any future purchases. This will be the last lease purchase that we do because we'll be putting away money and being able to pay cash for the engine. So why now? Well, with a 2 to 4 year delivery time, if we ordered the engine today, our current reserve engine will be 22 years old. How many more miles will it have on it? How many more mechanical issues? How much more money will we continue to invest in it? Again, the delivery time for the promised fire engine is 43 to 46 months. It's just crazy. The delivery is expected in the summer of 2027. The department formed an apparatus committee. One of our members, Chico, is here tonight. And we looked at what we built, because that engine there, that's our current engine, was designed and built by me, as a person of one. And I didn't know the community at the time. I was working 17 days when I came before you with the request to purchase our fleet of vehicles. And so we now have experience. And I wanted the input from the people working on the fire apparatus and what we should do. And they determined that, you know what, Pierce is a great engine, and we should continue with that engine. They made some minor recommendations. The aesthetics won't work, but they'll improve that initial design and build on it. I also didn't put in there, but the way we're able to pick Pierce is through working with HGAC, which is a purchasing power company that goes out to bid for everything, and then we just jump or piggyback on that purchasing process. The current engine 1 will become a reserve engine in, the current engine 1 will become the reserve engine in 2000. The current engine 1 will become the reserve engine in 2000. It should be 26 when it would be 5 years old. The engine will serve 10 years as a reserve. It is programmed to be replaced in, get this, 2036 or 2037. At that point, it will be 15 years old. The new engine will serve 10 years frontline service, from 2027 to 2037. It will be then placed into reserve for 5 years, so it will have 15 years of service when it's replaced in 2042. We're looking and planning up until 2042, because if you look at that engine on the right, that could be the kind of engine that we're looking to buy in the future. That's an all-electric fire engine that is hydraulic, all-electric. The technology is changing, but it's also very, very expensive. And so LA City has about one prototype engine like that. So how do we pay for this engine? The price quoted for the fire engine is $176,148.
1,000?
I'm sorry, 1 million.
Sold.
Sold. We'll take two. We'll take two. 1,176,148. The recommendation is that we do another 10-year lease. At the current interest rates, payments would be approximately $165,000 a year. There are two lease options that are available. One is what they call a prepayment lease. On that lease, you receive approximately $143,000 in discounted pricing. It also locks in the interest rate at 6.73%. Payments would start essentially a year from today when we ordered the engine in 2024. Annual payments on that engine would be $143,351.34. So that's one option available. The second option is no prepayment. There is no discounted pricing. There is no locked-in interest rate. The rate will be set at the time that we start paying. The lease payments would start 1 year after delivery of the fire engine. So the first payment for the lease would be due in fiscal year 28-29. Payments would be approximately $165,091 based on today's rate. Again, we don't know what rate we'll be locking in 2028. It's important to note that the patrol will be paid off at this time. So that part of our lease payments that we're currently making will be solved. And then all future apparatus purchases, as I mentioned, will be totally purchased and not leased, paid in cash in front. So it's staff's recommendation that the city council authorize the city manager to execute a lease purchase agreement with South Coast Fire Equipment for the purchase of one Type 1 structural fire engine in the amount of $1,176,148.24. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Questions, council? Mayor Pro Tem Welty, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I'm looking, I think, at page 70 of the Pierce Financial Solutions quote. I believe it's a quote. And it basically defines something a little bit different. This one says $101,174,000, 10-year payments, which is consistent. Payment is $165,000 a year, and the interest rate is 6.73. So this one wasn't represented on the board, but it says the first payment is due 1 year after the lease commencement, and the commencement date is the delivery date. And that's a little bit different than the terms. I'm just reading the terms on the paper.
The difference in the $2,000 in the price is a service agreement for HGAC, and I believe I explained that in the staff report. The difference in the financing, that's just how they put it together. She could not function or produce what it would look like if we did not do the prepayment without a locked interest rate. So she just showed the interest rate. I understand that it says that it would be, the payment schedule would start. She just matched up the payment schedules identically. But I called Pierce today and confirmed them with the leasing agency that the first payment would be October of 2024.
So page 70 is showing you the non-prepayment, and page 71 is showing you the prepayment. And what the chief's showing you or telling you is they put the interest rate on this sheet even though that's not known. But what you'll see is the first payment due date is 1 year after the lease commences, and the lease commencement date is at delivery. So that means the engine's delivered 1 year after that, the payments start.
It's a one payment a year.
Yes,
Correct.
And so, but the interest rate's a performer. In other words, it's a kind of performer rate. It's not the actual rate.
Correct.
on
They're putting that
page.
in to give you an idea of what the rate will be, but we don't know.
We don't
It could
know.
be higher, it could be lower. Our current rate is 2.9391, something like that.
So nobody knows. So that, I get that nobody knows what the interest rates are going to be in 4 years, so
And we
that
did ask
doesn't
them if
bother
we
me, but.
could, we did ask them if we could pay it off early, if we could refinance. They have not done refinancing before because they haven't seen the interest rates as high as they are right now. There's a hope that they will come down. If they come down during the term of the lease, we should be able to refinance, but we have to stay in the payment in the lease program for at least 2 years.
Is there penalties for
There would be
paying
a
off early?
prepayment penalty if you pay it off before 2 years.
How much?
I don't have that information, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And we talked to Terry about this, and there's other financing options that may be out there at that time. So that is really the decision we have to make, is whether we're willing to start payments in a year at the higher interest rate, not knowing if we can refinance. At that point, again, we could look for other financing options in the future after the 2 years. On the other side, if we wait till 2028, we're dependent on what the rate is at that time.
And Chief, I will say one thing about the fire engines. What I know about fire engines is they look pretty, and I think they'd be fun to ride in. Beyond that, I'm really trusting you that this is the right engine and your team, and I'm getting some nods from the team saying this is the way to go. So I'm going to go with that because I have a relationship with you, and it's always been great, and your team. So, but as far as the financing, that's really kind of where we're at, and we have a finance committee. And
Yeah, you
I'm going to
guys-
figure how that model fits into their image.
I can assure you the product is an excellent product. It's used by Riverside City, it's used by Murrieta, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, many places in Orange County as well. Huntington Beach. It's in Orange County.
So my own feeling is that I'd like to move ahead with the purchase. That's not an issue for me personally. The financing, I think it's a big picture question. It's not like it's $1,600 a month. And I would just like the finance committee to kind of take a look at it and come back with recommendations. If they don't have them now, then can we wait a month for the finance committee to recommend a model?
Do you guys have a recommendation tonight?
Not that we've talked about.
Okay.
I mean, we obviously did talk about this at the finance committee meeting. But I don't think we had any concerns over the payment models.
Which ones, did you guys indicate what you like better?
We like to pay a long time
Away.
in the future.
Yes. I would-
Way far away.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, there is advantage of a long time in the future. I think, we got a 5-year note on the building. So there'll be maybe a little overlap, but relatively, the building will fade out about the same
Yeah,
time.
that's
as
true.
That's a
this.
good point,
So
too.
there's some advantages. The predictions of future interest rate, the smart people who are wrong more often, way more than they should be, the prediction is leveled to going down by that period of time.
What is the type 6 drop off?
7 years, 2028, when this one finishes.
And the Black Pearl, when
Starts.
does that one go?
I'm sorry?
Black Pearl, when does that one drop off?
Should be 3 years past that, about 2000. We purchased it, and first payment was 22, so it should be 32.
And I'm sorry, I might have been in the restroom. What do we do with the backup engine?
We have different options for the backup engine. We could try to trade it in and reduce the cost a little bit. We could try to sell it on an open market. The resale on these engines is not the greatest. We could donate it possibly to a fire academy, a college, to a sister city if we had something like that. A lot of fire engines get donated to needing communities down in Mexico. So those are some of the options available to us.
And I'll just add that the value of the dollar, right, as we know, goes up. We're locking in the price, even if we're not paying it until 2028. So even though you're seeing that discount by going in a year, we're still going to have a discount because we're locking it so far in advance right now. We all know that the value is diminished of the dollar over time, right? So in 5-6 years from now, it's still going to be.
In 2 years, 2.5 years since we purchased it, the cost has gone up almost $300,000.
Yeah, I mean, what we spent, what, 875 was it?
I believe it was 750, right around 750 total.
And
then
now we're looking at 1.1.
Correct.
Yeah.
And 4 more years, we have this unpredictability of interest, but we also have unpredictability of price. I'd sure like to lock in the price side of it. because if the price doesn't expand, then the interest rate's probably going to be low, so.
So not trying to be pessimistic, but they can do that? I mean, they don't know what materials are going to be in 3 to 4 years.
That's how they're doing it.
I know this, and Councilmember Terry, you do too, from your construction days. When you submit bids on projects and they come back 6, 8 months out, you got to rebid it. And we have obviously a case study here that have they done this in the past, where they locked in a price 5 years out and kept to it?
To my knowledge, they have, yes. We're locking in that price, and this is how all agencies are going through right now, the same process.
Cool. Okay.
Well, triple check, I think we should triple check, like there's no small fine print.
Well,
Like
we're
if they go
looking-
up by a certain percentage or something, they're not
we're
gonna
looking at
cut that.
1.1, almost 2 million, but then, things happen, and hey, here you go, 4 years down the road, now it's actually, it's 1.4, but it makes sense because, there's a shortage of tires, and now we're spending $8,000 per tire, which actually, that's probably close to the actual price we're paying right now. But that's what I'm wondering, right, is, because it's hard to predict, and if they're doing this and this is their concept, whatever, and that means there's that much room in their pricing point on building these things, it's just 4 years out.
I'm sure they're factoring in that pricing.
Yeah.
Maybe they have contracts too, at a certain price,
Yeah.
right? They potentially could have longer term contract with their suppliers at a certain price point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the price is also, okay, math, not my strong suit, but $400,000 more than what we paid 2 years ago. So they must be building that in somehow. I had a couple comments. I like the idea of not paying for something 3 years before it's here. That's concerning to me. So I agree with the second option too. But just a question, what's the percentage that we use the reserve engine compared to the primary engine?
We probably average about 1 day a month that we're using the reserve engine overall. We use that engine when we staff up for additional events. We use that engine when an engine goes in for service. We typically have them serviced at least 2 years. We still train with the engine, so we're using it on those days. But our frontline engine is a great engine. We're just needing to make sure, we're not replacing the frontline engine. We're replacing the reserve engine, and I think that's important to remember, is when it gets here, it's going to be 21, 22 years old, and that's the end of its lifespan. If we're seeing these delivery problems now and we don't act on it soon, the industry doesn't see this resolving very quickly. The backlog is so large that it's just going to be this way for a period of time. So it's my recommendation that we move on it. I understand the cost and the financing, but I'm also concerned about being able to maintain service to the community.
And one of the things the chief has mentioned is there's only like 40 left of the 2023 model.
That
2023
changed. We had to
diesel.
change motors.
Yeah.
We missed that opportunity. The other thing that occurred with that, if we went with one of the 40 motors that were left for the engine, it would raise the engine height about 3 inches. And we don't have that height room at the fire station. So we went with the Cummins engine at this time. The current engine has a Detroit. Detroit is no longer in the fire engine manufacturing, and that's one of the cost increase. The difference from that motor to the other was $20,000 more because Cummins almost has a monopoly on the fire motor inventory.
Electrification, where are we at in conversations with that? I know it's talked about, the state is mandating a 2035, and they're not, forcing fire and obviously first responders as of right now to participate with that. But where's that conversation going with some of your chiefs and others that you're talking about?
So as I put up on the screen earlier, that's LA City's electric fire engine. They
Okay,
are
that's
starting-
what that thing was that you put up there, okay.
They're starting to make them, and it's changing the concept. But because the technology is so new, they're extremely, extremely
Yeah.
expensive. And, the question is, when we get to when these things become a standard, if they ever become a standard, we have a large campaign fire somewhere here in California. There's no place to charge these fire engines when you have hundreds of fire engine on an incident, and they're there for weeks at a time. So those issues are not yet worked out.
you know, and I shared this with you, Chief, because I remember calling you 5 or 6 months ago when Assemblymember Corey Jackson was trying to push the mandate to 2030, and he was trying to author a bill to require this to happen throughout California. And the example that was given is, you know, obviously Cal Fire Boys right now, they live in San Diego and they're getting pushed out to a fire up north, and there's no way that thing's going to make it.
It's not going to make it.
And more importantly, it's not reliable when it's out in the field unless there's plugged into a generator. And Councilmember Terry and myself, when we were in the city of Sunnyvale, you know, one of the most, what I would consider community that would push something like this, they even said it's a joke. It's, you know, and even the electric ones that they're pushing, they're not fully electric, they're hybrid. So they're diesel motor, diesel powered, and they all have generators on them to charge them anyways because they can't get past a strike.
And that's what this is as well.
Yeah. So I just think and I appreciate the conversation, Chief, just because this is what we're up against in the state, and we're making decisions right now that we're talking about years, 5, 10, 15 years down. And right now, legislators are trying to force agencies to go electric. And we're not having that conversation. And it's just something that we need to have on our radar because we're going to spend a lot of money on an engine that we hope would last us, just like the reserve one right now, for 20 years. But I don't even know if the state's going to allow it because of what they're trying to push.
I believe from the fire service industry, from emergency services, because of our unique need and our unique need to travel throughout the state and be gone for extended period of time, that there's not going to be some place where all these vehicles can be recharged. So as the proposal before you calls out, this new engine would not be replaced for 15 years. We're into 2040. I believe we'll be fine. That next engine, that could be something to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions for the chief?
Mayor.
Yes.
If I could, I did bring up our last lease agreement that we signed, I think, with the same entity. To look up the question, I think someone had asked about termination.
Yeah.
And refinancing. Looked up the process for it. So essentially, you have to be current on your payments, and then there's a termination value set for every year of the contract. Not a finance person by any means, but it essentially looks like the principal that's remaining plus a relatively nominal amount of interest. It doesn't look overly excessive, or it wouldn't be the kind of thing that would prevent us from refinancing.
From doing a payoff early? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for looking at that. So, any other questions, comments? Since we're talking fire, I know there's been conversations on our Type 6 and utilizing that for certain programs up and down the state. Has that gone anywhere?
We've gone out once with that vehicle. Currently, we just don't really have the staffing for it. If we get the SAFER grant, and the SAFER grants are starting to be released, they release about 40 per week, we will have a pool of resources of people that we would be able to make that more available.
Do we think, you know, after almost celebrating 2 years, which is amazing, I can't believe we're going to be here in a few months, the Type 6 was still the right decision?
I do.
Okay.
And again, if we get the SAFER grant, that will be the vehicle that they responded.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. That's all the questions I had. Does anyone else have anything? So I think we have to make a recommendation. We have two options, right? It looks like I'm hearing from the right that option number 2 is probably going to be the best, and that's delay of payment as long as possible and go that route. How's my left side looking?
I agree.
Can I get a motion in a second? And just for the Madam Clerk, so she doesn't yell at me later, this is for the approval and authorization to allow the city manager to execute a lease purchasing agreement with South Coast Fire Equipment for the purchase of one Type 1 structure fire engine.
Utilizing option number 2, no prepayment.
That too.
Thank you.
Knew you had to say something. With that, I do need a motion. I'll make the motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. I can't get, do we have any public comments on this?
We do
I don't
not.
think we do. Okay, we're not taking anything on social media, so I do need a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
City manager comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief. Thanks to the boys in pink, too. Our city manager, you got any comments?
Yes, I just want to, I know Aaron left, but Ruby and Aaron spent quite a bit of time on the business license program, and I just want to thank them for taking that on. I know Ruby hasn't done many staff reports, so I appreciate her taking that opportunity to learn and come up before you tonight and present that program. Thank you for the feedback. And also just to all the staff, as you can tell, it's been a very busy month, State of the City, and we're a little bit short-staffed right now, so just thank you to all the staff for jumping in, Mike doing IT work for the meetings, everyone jumping in where needed to support each other, so just thank you so much to the team.
Awesome, thank you. Bear with me. Our next city council meeting is going to be Wednesday, November 8th. I do want to adjourn our meeting in honor of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I want to share this with each of us just because it's fascinating. We probably, all of us here, have someone in our lives who's been impacted by breast cancer, and when I read this, I want to share it with you. Breast cancer is the most common diagnosed cancer among American women and the most common cancer in the world. In 2023, the estimated amount was 297. That's almost 300,000 new cases. It's incredible when you think about those who are impacted by this terrible, disgusting disease. We actually have someone in the city of Hemet, Linda Krupa, who battled cancer last year. And so I think of her every time that we talk about breast cancer awareness. So with that, I want to honor those that had to put up this fight and those that unfortunately have lost their life to this terrible disease. And with that, thank you everyone for participating in our council meeting. We appreciate it.